Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed by individuals on this platform, the callers plus invited guests, are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with this brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Don't touch that dial. You're now listening to Debate Talk Free Radio.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
You have Dayvaughn Mays. Welcome to the program.
Shalom, shalom. All praise to the Most High God of Israel. Psalm 83:18. Shalom, Sal. Shalom, Josh. Shalom, Debate Talk for You audience. How you doing, Sal?
I'm doing pretty good, man. What you been up to lately, bro?
Man, actually a little bit. I'm working on a podcast, new book series. I keep hearing echo. Are you hearing that?
Yeah, you still hear it now? You still hearing echo now?
Hello?
You still hear it? Yeah, do you still hear it? The echo?
Yeah, okay. So, long story short, working on the podcast, working on a new book series, and just paying attention to what's going on, man. It's been a while since I've been on here, so thanks for having me back.
All right, and by the way, family, this was Dayvaughn Mays' idea. This is what letting people know what made you came up with this idea, brother.
Well, basically, going back, everybody knows that me and Josh were if you were familiar with a comment thread that went a while back, we were going to debate a topic about something about Paul and the law. I forget exactly what it was talking about, but we talked on the phone about it behind the scenes. Sal, you was there for at least I know on one occasion, and we picked each other's brain a little bit, and to be honest, we had a lot more to talk about than to argue about. You know what I'm saying? We still, of course, we still got different views, but there's so much. The Tanakh is an ocean, and there's so much information to deal with, and not everything comes down to an argument about the New Testament versus the Old Testament. So, with that in mind, knowing that Josh has a wide range of studies, he teaches a lot of different classes. So I figured, why isolate us to one topic for all night, and the callers calling in and talking about one topic, when we can cover a lot of different things, and people will still get, people want us to fight, but they'll still get both of us in the room. It just won't be going at each other. It'll be dealing with the public in this setting. So if I'm wrong about that, Josh can correct me if I, said anything that wasn't too accurate.
Well, once again, I appreciate it. Debate Talk for You, we always try different things, to enhance the program. So I appreciate the idea, my brother. Oh, you kind of breathing. Yeah, I hear you breathing, brother. Kind of close to the phone, man.
Yeah, I ain't on my cell phone because I don't want the call to drop and I can't get back in. So if this is gonna be a problem, I can call in on my cell phone.
Nah, it's cool. It's all right. Yeah, right now it's pretty good. But
okay.
Stand by, man. Once again, I appreciate you coming on the program, man. And my next special guest is has been here since season 1 of Debate Talk for You Radio. Still here. This is Brother Josh from Absolute Bible Truth. Welcome to the program.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom, Sal. Shabbat Shalom, Dayvaughn Mays. I got to give him a nickname. I call him Mayday. You know what I'm saying? I give everybody a nickname. You know what I'm saying? He's going to have some distress signals going out tonight. I call him Mayday. And, yeah, man, brother sound a little asthmatic on the phone there, bro. You know what I'm saying? Take a breathe. Take about 5. You know what I'm saying? Before you come back. But I'm just messing with you. Appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Appreciate you having us on the show tonight, Sal. As Dayvaughn said, this was his ideal, and yes, I think it was a pretty good idea. You know what I'm saying? You know, a dual hot seat. I don't think any platform has ever done anything like this before, so this is kind of a historical moment being made here tonight. You know, a dual hot seat where, you know, two people who I think are two of the top representatives of their particular worldviews, you know, just being put there together and just let the people just ask both of them the same questions or any question they want in general. I mean, everything on the table tonight. You know what I'm saying? Even the table is on the table tonight. You know what I'm saying? So the atheists, Muslims, Moors, Egyptologists, you know, this is one of them times where Josh can't be like, well, we ain't talking about that right now, so I ain't going to answer that. No, tonight I either got to deal with it or just be like, baby, I don't got to deal with it, or just be like, yo, you know, I ain't got no answer for that. And there's nothing wrong with, you know, not having an answer for anything. It just simply means you don't know everything. You know, so I look forward to this, and I appreciate this this new ideal, you know what I'm saying, that Dayvaughn came up with, and hopefully maybe some more people after us to try to do the dual hot seat thing. But limit it only to two people, Sal, please, because you know I don't like anything more than two people doing so. You know that. You know what I'm saying? You know,
that's why it's called a dual hot seat. There we go, the dual hot seat. That's right.
Yeah, Sal will come on this bad boy next week and have a quadruple hot seat. You know, Sal he got that more the merrier attitude. So, you know, please don't do more than two, Sal.
There you go. We're going to keep it at two. That's right. We're going to keep it at two. Keep it at two. There we go. And once again, the number is 319-527-6239. I see we got people on the phone lines. If it's your first time calling in, press number 1 if you have a question. Press number 1. And we're going to go down in order and take some of your questions and your comments. Also, the chat room is open, y'all. The chat room is officially open. You can type in the chat room your questions, your comments, and the ones that are interesting, I'll read them to my special guest on the hot seat right here on Debate Talk Radio. I see we got a few people pressing number 1 already. I got you. We're going to go down the line and get some of your questions. But, Brother Josh, any projects, anything out there that you want to promote or put out there before we begin?
Yes, indeed. I'm working on my new series. It's called the TSA series, also known as Taking Shots At. It's going to be a series of YouTube videos where basically I'm going to just be going on YouTube, picking out random videos of people teaching on whatever topic. It could be based on Kemet or Egypt. It could be based on the Bible or the Quran. And it's called Taking Shots At because I'm going to literally be taking shots at what's being taught and just basically just pointing out everything that's inaccurate or everything that's wrong and showing the people what's right. So be on the lookout for my TSA series, you know what I'm saying? I might also start a Patreon so y'all can support it. If you like the material and would like to see more of it, I may start a Patreon so y'all can donate to that. But basically, this is what people have been asking me to do. Like, I know most people just want me to just go out into the world and just try to just point out all the stuff that I see that I think need to be corrected, you know what I'm saying? So I may do that, you know what I'm saying? But I'm going to try to do this in the form of the TSA series. So be on the lookout for that. That's the only really current project I got coming up right now. And other things may span from that. But for now, that's what I'm working on.
All right, so without further ado, let's get this thing started. If it's your first time calling in, there's no foul language, y'all. No foul language. You got to keep it clean, keep it professional. We're going to go down the line and get some of your questions and some of your comments. All right, so let's get it started, guys. Let's go to the first caller. Let's go to 804. You are live. Say your name, where you're from, and who's the question for. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Jay from Richmond. And I had a question for the brother that, doesn't follow the New Testament. Who would Isaiah 9, 6, and 7 be talking about when it says the Prince of Peace? We'll have a child that's born amongst us, and the Prince of Peace, and he'll be called the Everlasting Father. And that's Old Testament. So who would that be?
Well, if you go into the different translations, the first thing you will see that you will see if you go into a BibleGateway.com, if you go to the Bible Hub, I'm not sure if it's on Blue Letter. I haven't looked at this specifically, but it'll say a child has been born. So to tell you that this is a past tense thing, it already happened, or a child has been born to us. So it's like Isaiah is
who would
talking
that
about
child
something
be?
that happened. Excuse me?
Who would that child be?
Hello?
You can hear me?
I thought you was asking me something. Was you asking me something?
Yeah, I said, who would that child be?
Oh, well, according to what the perspective that would be put in, it would be referring to Hezekiah. So if you're going to go with the translation that tells you the child has been born. Now, if you want to go with a translation that talk about a child to be born in the future, you could say, well, this hasn't happened yet because everlasting righteousness hasn't been brought in. There's no kingdom of peace being brought in. So depending on what translation you go with, you got to deal with the time frame that it's referring to, because if you're talking about, because I'm pretty sure, and I could be wrong, but I'm just going to assume that you're going to refer that this is talking about Jesus. Well, this hasn't happened yet either. So to say it is Jesus wouldn't be accurate because we don't see this. And if it's referring to Hezekiah, then we know everlasting righteousness didn't come in, right? But as far as being called the Prince of Peace and all these different things, Hezekiah had many titles. His name means the power of Yah. He was a counselor. It doesn't call him a wonderful counselor, but we know that he basically made a lot of things happen in Israel during his reign. He brought the tribes back to start celebrating the feast again. He taught Torah throughout the nation. And there's a lot of different things we could go into for the sake of time, but as far as who it's referring to, the argument, I would say, will be between Hezekiah and a future king to reign.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to hear Brother Josh's opinion on it, too.
Okay.
All right,
Brother Josh. Yeah. Josh.
You said something to me?
No, I said go ahead. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Oh, no, I mean, I'm going to pass. He didn't direct it at me. I'm going to pass on that. You know what I'm saying? Unless somebody else calls in and asks me that.
I wanted to hear your opinion, too.
Oh, okay. You still there, caller? I thought the caller left.
Yeah, I'm still here. I wanted to hear what you got to say, too, man. All right.
Oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate that. I just heard you say him. And that's Dayvaughn, by the way. Dayvaughn, that's the brother, just remember his name. And you Jay, right? If I'm heard correctly, you said your name, Jay?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Jay, my understanding when I read this, and I read multiple translations of it too, I refer this to be a messianic prophecy, not Hezekiah. And let me show you why I believe this. And as Dayvaughn Mays said, there are multiple translations of this. All the translations that I've read, though, puts it in the present tense form. But if we know anything about prophecy in the Old Testament, there are prophecies that we can both agree that are yet to come, and they are sometimes spoken as if it's already happened. Because when God ordains something, it's going to happen. So God can speak of things yet to be as if they've already happened, and he does that sometimes in prophecy. This is one of those cases, but it tells you whoever this individual is. I'm going to read it through. It says, for unto us, King James Version Bible, and we can read this out of any translation. I might even read some multiple translations for you. I got some open. The King James says, for unto us a son is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. NIV, for to us a child is born, to us a son is given. New Living Translation, for a child is born to us, a son is given to us. All of these are in present tense form, but we know that the prophecy is not limited necessarily by grammatical tense. It's not necessarily limited by that. And I'm pretty sure Dayvaughn can even show you some examples of prophecy in the Tanakh that's spoken of as if it's happening then or already happened, and he will tell you this is future. Even he will do that. This is the English Standard Version. For unto us a child is born, to us a son is given. Again, present tense. Berean Study Bible. This will be the last one before I move on. For unto us a child is born, and to us a son is given. But here's the key. It says, and the government, going back to the King James, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor. Now, it says his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor. This is not saying that he will be addressed as wonderful or addressed as counselor. This is saying that his reputation will be that of being wonderful, that of being a counselor. But look what else it says. The mighty God. This is the same individual. Whether you try to make this Hezekiah and then somebody in the future, you can't do that. Whoever this is being referred to here is the same individual, that son that will be born. So you got a son that will be called the mighty God, the everlasting Father. So everlasting, some translation says, this is the New American Standard Bible. If you go and you read this, it says, for to us a child is born to us, a son will be given us, and the government shall rest upon his shoulders, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Eternal Father, Prince of Peace. This is clearly not something that you will say about a normal individual. And then it says, going back to the King James, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, verse 7 is the key, though. Of the increase of his government, whose government? This son that is born, who shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and the peace, there shall be no end. This did not happen with Hezekiah. He did not have a government that did not end, and it definitely wasn't peace during his time of reign, right? It says, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. So henceforth even from ever means from the time that it starts, that's the way it's going to be from now on. That is not the case with Hezekiah. Now, you could argue that, well, that didn't happen with Jesus either, but the New Testament does not just say, oh, Jesus was born and blah, 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 and leave it at that. The New Testament does speak of Jesus returning to set up a kingdom. Now, that's a matter of whether you believe that or not. That's one thing, but the New Testament does give an explanation for why Jesus didn't do it. And I don't get into debating if you agree with the explanation or not. I just get into was an explanation given. There's no explanation given in the Tanakh or Old Testament for why Hezekiah did not do all of this in his lifetime, and he clearly didn't. But just to finish that, it says, and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever, the zeal of the Lord of hosts shall perform this, meaning this is going to be from the Lord, from Yah, Yahuwah, Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever name that you rep, Yah, whatever. That's what this is saying. So my understanding is this is a messianic prophecy that refers to a man who would also be called God and who would rule from the throne of David in a kingdom that shall never, ever stop being established.
All right, family.
Yeah.
Once again, the number is 319-527-6239. It's the Hot Seat segment right here on Debate Talk Free Radio. We're taking some of your questions and some of your comments live. All you got to do is dial that number, press number 1, and we'll add you into the conversation. Hold on. I see somebody press number 1 again. Hold on. We'll get to you guys. Also got to check my email. That's debatetalkforyou@gmail.com. That's debatetalk, the number 4, and the letter U @gmail.com. When you press number 1, just press number 1 time. If you press it more than once, it'll take you off the switchboard. So once again, just press number 1 and we'll add you in the conversation. Right now, people just listening, y'all. They're not asking, asking any questions at this time. Dayvaughn Mays, you want to ask live? You can do that until somebody.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Yeah, nobody's pressing number 1 right now. Everybody's just listening right now. So
oh well, then you know what? I'll expound on what we were just talking about as far as the Hezekiah thing. In 2 Kings chapter 20, verse 19, it says, Then said Hezekiah unto Isaiah, Good is the word of the Lord which thou hast spoken. And he said, Is it not good if peace and truth be in my days? So Hezekiah did have times of trouble, but he also had times of peace because Isaiah basically came and told him, like, look, your sons are going to go to Babylon, but it's not going to happen at this point in time. And another thing is we know that prophecies are always conditional, and I'll give you an example of this. In 2 Samuel chapter 7, when the prophecy about Solomon happens, it says, when thy days be fulfilled, this is the Most High speaking to David, when thy days be fulfilled and thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, I will set up thy seed after thee, who shall proceed out of thy loins, and I will establish his kingdom. He shall build a house for my name, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom forever. I will be his father, he shall be my son. If he commit iniquity, I will chasten him with the rod of men and with the stripes of the children of men. But my mercy shall not depart from him, as I took it from Saul, whom I put away before thee. And thine house and kingdom shall be established forever before thee. Thy throne shall be established forever. Well, we know that this didn't happen with Solomon either, but it could have had Israel kept the law, because David told Solomon when he was about to die. This is what David tells Solomon in 1 Kings chapter 2. He says, starting verse 2, I go the way of all the earth, be strong therefore, and show thyself a man, keep the charge of the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, to keep his statutes, his commandments, his judgments, his testimonies, as it is written in the law of Moses, that thou mayest prosper in all that thou doest, and whatsoever thou turnest thyself, that the Lord may continue his word which he spoke concerning me, saying, if thy children take heed to their way, to walk before me in truth with all their heart, with all their soul, there shall not fail thee, said he, a man on the throne of Israel. So going back to Samuel, when he told David, your son Solomon, he's going to build me a throne, and if he get out of line, I'm going to punish him, but I'm going to establish his throne forever. Well, today, ain't no throne of David. It's established forever, because it was conditional, because it says if they keep my commandments, they're going to have all these things. So we know Israel backslides, and they don't have the kingdom no more. So even though Hezekiah did not continue the kingdom as well, the prophecies can be, well, I ain't going to say can be, but the prophecies are conditional if Israel was to fulfill their end of the covenant, which didn't happen in the case of Hezekiah. And like I said, in dealing with the translations, what is that, Isaiah 9 and 6. If you just type in the one verse in either Bible Gateway or Bible Hub, and you click on multiple translations, that's when everything will pop up. In the CEV, which is the contemporary English version, it says a child has been born to us. But, like Josh said, sometimes prophecies are spoken in a way of it could be applying now or being applied to the future, depending on the language that's used. But there's a few different translations you can go through that will tell you the child has been born for us, will be born, is born, you know. So, I mean, it's the same thing across the board. So I think this is one of those things of, you know, nobody can say for certain. And we know the word father, Israelites called their prophets father, and even Joseph was said, God has made me a father unto Pharaoh. So calling somebody a father is not necessarily referring to God. It's just like, you know, when Elijah went to heaven, Elisha said, my father, my father. Another one of the kings of Israel called Elisha his father. But we know he was just giving them mad respect in the sense of, you're basically like, you know, you're a prophet, you're a great man. I'm looking to you as my leader, you know what I'm saying, at that point in time. So don't let the word father throw you off as always referring to God, because that's not always the case.
All right, once again, the number is 319-527-6239. This is a hot seat segment where you can ask your questions live, family. All you got to do is out that number, 319-527-6239. Simply press number 1. You can ask Brother Josh or Dayvaughn Mays any question that you have, as long as it's respectful. Of course, got to keep it clean, keep it professional. And then the number is 319-527-6239. Brother Josh, anything that you want to respond to at this particular time? People listening to the show, but they're not pressing number 1 at this time. So
Mayday got them. Mayday got them a little shook right now. They'll come up out of it. You know what I'm saying? You know, he got them shook right now. It's all good. You know, just touching back on what he said. Yes, I agree that a lot of the people called the prophet father, and that continued all the way to the time of the New Testament, with some of the rabbis being referred to as father. But that's not the word that we're focusing on. It says everlasting Father. No man ever prior to the New Testament times ever had the name everlasting Father. The only time you start hearing about everlasting Father as far as like a person, like a entity, that's God. You never hear anybody in the Old Testament, unless you can show me otherwise, where they are called an everlasting Father. And some translations say eternal, even though, excuse me, y'all, even though you can read several times in the Tanakh where God himself is called everlasting. You can read that several times in the Tanakh. Here's another thing to think about. Hezekiah is mentioned by name several times in the book of Isaiah, several times. So it stands to reason that if Isaiah had Hezekiah in mind, he would have said, Hezekiah has been born unto us, and as a son he was given unto us, and the government shall be upon his shoulder. It stands to reason, being that Hezekiah was mentioned by name several times, he would have been mentioned here to take any and all confusion out of it. Yet they leave it completely obscure. It just says a son. Wait a minute, you've been talking about Hezekiah by name every other time when he did something, and then when you get here, all of a sudden Hezekiah ain't got no name no more. Nobody, we getting all, all cryptic with it. No, that doesn't make any sense. This is talking about somebody outside of Hezekiah. Also, as Dayvaughn Mays correctly pointed out, prophecy can sometimes be conditional. If you notice, in every prophecy that he went to, it put that magic word in there to let you know it was conditional. That word is if. If they do this, if they do that. But I'm pretty sure Dayvaughn Mays would also agree that there are prophecies in the Bible that are not conditional. Like, for instance, I don't think Dayvaughn Mays believes that Israel returning back to their land is conditional. That's in prophecy. I think he believes that's definite. There's some conditions thrown in there about who will return back, but it's definite that Israel in prophecy is stated to come back. There's nothing conditional in Isaiah chapter 9. So when you factor in these facts that, number one, Isaiah is never identifies this son as Hezekiah, being on top of the fact that he's mentioned Hezekiah by name several times in the book of Isaiah. So now you're saying, okay, why didn't he mention his name here? He didn't do it there. That's strike one. This can't be talking about Hezekiah. Otherwise, Isaiah more than likely would have identified him by name. Number two, it says, the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God. These are all the names he's known by. Where was Hezekiah ever known as the Mighty God? In fact, here's something else that I want everybody to consider. When you talk about the term Mighty God, that's not the only time that is used in the book of Isaiah, right? So when you go to Isaiah and you read about Mighty God, you say, okay, that's talking about, that's talking about who? This son. Now, you can go also to other places. Let me see if I can find this other place in Isaiah. Here we go. Isaiah chapter 10, one verse later, 10 and 21. Look what it says. The remnant shall return, even the remnant of Jacob, unto the mighty God. This is just one chapter over, and in the original text, there was no chapter division. So this is just all one long story. So you got somebody being called the mighty God in Isaiah chapter 9, and right in chapter 10, it tells you the remnant of Jacob shall return to this same mighty God. If I was writing a book and there was no chapter divisions, and I called somebody mighty God here, and then just a few paragraphs later, I say mighty God again, if I don't make any distinction in between, then the reader would have no choice but to come to the conclusion that whatever mighty God is mentioned here is the same mighty God mentioned that the remnant of Jacob would return to, who also incidentally would be called a son who is born. And when you go to the New Testament, that's exactly how Jesus is described, as a son who will be born, but he's also called God. He's also said he's going to rule from the throne of David. In light of that, in between what's being said, there's nothing said about Hezekiah, even though we know Isaiah was well familiar with the name Hezekiah and even employed it in his writings. So it doesn't make any sense to me, at least, that he would get all cryptic when he's been mentioning Hezekiah by name all of this time. Then if you turn and you go right over to Jeremiah chapter 32 and verse 18, look what it says. Thou showest loving kindness unto thousands, and recompense the iniquity of the fathers into the bosom of their children after them. The great, the mighty God, the Lord of hosts, is his name. Nowhere else in the Bible, at least as far as what I've come across, and Dayvaughn can jump in at any time and show me, but I haven't come across anybody ever being called the mighty God other than the God of Israel. But when we get to Isaiah chapter 9, we just going to make that Hezekiah, even though he could have mentioned him by name. I would like to hear more of an explanation. I'm not saying that that's all Dayvaughn Mays got to add about that. I would just like to hear more of an explanation on how you came to the conclusion that this was Hezekiah. But that's all I got for now.
And Dayvaughn Mays, you can answer that question, but right after that, we'll take another question. Go ahead.
Okay. Josh made some good points. We don't see people being called mighty God, but people are referred to, for instance, in 1 Samuel 4:8, it says, "Woe unto us, who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods? These are the gods who smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness." So sometimes people refer to people's gods as mighty gods, but sometimes these people are also talking about men, because we know men are called gods in the Tanakh. So we got to put this all in the context and know Hezekiah was not called a mighty God, but it does say in 2 Samuel, or I'm sorry, not Samuel, 2 Kings 20, and I think 20, it says, "And the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and all his might, and how he made a pool and a conduit and brought water into the city, are they not written in the book of Chronicles of the king of Judah?" So he's not called a mighty God, but it's referencing the act he did. And we know people are called gods in the sense of a judge, and we know kings are judges. So technically, it doesn't say he is a mighty God, but it does give a reference to his might and his name in the same verse in 2 Kings 20 and 20. We can go to the next caller.
All right, let's go to the phone line. Again, the number is 319-527-6239. Simply press number 1 if you have a question or a comment for either Brother Josh or Dayvaughn Mays. Let's go to 865. You're live.
No, it's not. Hey, Shalom.
You sound kind of far away.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Clear now.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to make sure I'm loud and clear. Y'all know I got that Walmart connection. So I had a question to both of the. I had a question to both of the brothers. So according to the Torah, it says that you should not bring sin upon a man except by the mouth of two or three. And it says out of the mouth of 2 or 3, the matter should be established, correct?
You said sin upon a man or charge a man, like for a crime. That's what you're talking about?
Right. So
yeah,
is it?
That's what it says.
Is it? Yeah. So if we can agree that, so what exactly can the charge be? In your case, Dayvaughn, what exactly can the charge be that Mashiach, or whom the world calls Jesus Christ, is not the Messiah if you have more than 2 or 3 witnesses that conveyed that he was?
You're talking about charging somebody with a crime opposed to charging somebody with a belief? I'm trying to make sure I'm answering or understanding what you're trying to say. Because you got people saying he's a Messiah, but he's not here. So for you to charge me to say, well, I got more than people telling me that he's a Messiah, but I don't see him, he's not present. I mean, that's not really proof. That's like, forcing you to believe that LeBron's the greatest player or something. You know what I mean? Like, and I never watch basketball. It's like, well, I don't see it happen. I hear all these people saying it, but if I never watched him in action, how can you make that a proof? You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't think that's a fair stance to take to say, well, you got more than one people, because you got a lot of people saying that he's not the Messiah. You know what I'm saying? We got more than two people saying he's not the Messiah. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's like the evidence. It's like the evidence would show that Moses did not keep his promise as far as taking them to the promised land. I mean, because many said, "Did you come and take us here that we should die in this land?" I mean, they were witnessing the fact that, okay, I'm not in the land, and you're supposed to lead us there, so therefore, you know, we're coming against you, and we're going to throw rocks at you because you have not led us to the promised land. So wouldn't that be, couldn't you not just, I mean, wouldn't that be in comparison to the same thing? Because they saw, just like as Moses performed miracles, so did the Mashiach. And just as there were witnesses against Moses, there were witnesses against him at that time too. So wouldn't that not be
Okay. So let's deal with the first part that you said. Okay, they come out of Egypt, they're not in the land, but there's a reason, because the Most High decreed that they're going to, the ones who murmured are going to die in the wilderness. So there was a reason that they weren't going into the land. It's not because Moses lied to them. They were on their way, and when they sent the spies and they can't make a murmur, the Most High gave them a judgment. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Right, so it's not like Moses just made up something like, hey, y'all, we're going to the promised land. And then when they got out in the desert, oh, we're not going. There was a sentence or a judgment against them from the Most High that since y'all didn't, you know, y'all complained about going to the land because y'all scared of these giants and stuff. Anybody, I want to say it was 20 years and older or whatever, was like, he said, you're all going to die in the wilderness. So there was a reason they didn't go into the land. And as far as, like, again, you trying to say, okay, well, more than two people saying that he's the Messiah. Well, there's more than two people saying he's not. So, I mean, you would wash at this point. And as far as reality-based, I mean, and we can, I'm sure there's Christians that would even agree with me on this. People are waiting for Jesus to come back to solidify that he's the Messiah. Because remember he said, I don't judge you if you don't believe in me, but the Father will judge you. This is for future things to come. You feel me what I'm saying? So if I don't believe something that I can't see, then somebody else is saying, well, it did happen, or it's going to happen. I'm sorry, it's going to happen. Well, you can't hold me accountable for something that's going to happen because I don't see it right now. I'm going to give you $1 million. Okay, that sounds good, but, you know, and two people witness you say that to me. Well, I can't say that I'm going to get that money until I see it. Yeah, two people say he's going to give it to me, but, you know, if I don't believe that, then it's like, well, you know, you can't hold me to that because it's not something that's in reality. You get what I'm saying?
Well, you're kind of like proving the point with that. I mean, well, one, just to address that, Christians don't believe that when he returns that he has to prove himself again that he's the Messiah. They believe that he is and that he's just coming back to, in their case, to deliver the church. And just a whole bunch of other things. But that's beside the point. With that being said, you're proving the issue is that if people did not believe Moses, even though that was the promise that was being made, and they could not see it, they did not believe, therefore there was a judgment that came upon them. Okay, you're not going to enter into the promised land. Not only was that a promise that was given to them from the very get-go, from the time of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that was the promise that the Most High made, that they were going to go in if they continued in righteousness, if they obeyed. But because they did not, they were not able to see it. Now you have the exact same thing with the Messiah. He's telling you, I am who I said that I am, and if you believe on me, you will have life eternal. But if you don't, then, you know, you're going to be destroyed. You're going to be considered an enemy. People believed. There were people who did not. So the witness was there, just like the witnesses were there for Moses, and you have the exact same parallels. You have people who don't believe. Even though they saw the miracles, they still did not believe. They saw the signs, still did not believe. it's like you can't use the same. You can't say that it's two different things when both things happen. If you see miracles, like you personally did not see Moses do any of the works that he did. You personally did not see any of the works that that happened in the wilderness with your forefathers. Yet you believe that you're a descendant of those very same people that came out of that desert. Well, the exact same thing is happening again, where somebody who supposedly said, I've come in the likeness of, according to the scripture, I come in the likeness of Moses. It was written of me. I'm that one that was talked about in the book. He's telling you the exact same thing. You're going to go into captivity if you don't believe. Guess where we're at right now? In captivity. Did that not come true? Yes, he was a witness. We're all witnesses of that. I personally don't see what the issue is, because there's no explanation of, if I'm a witness to what he said, he has to be a person who was speaking the words of the Most High. If you believe that Caiaphas was a high priest at that time, and he prophesied that this man had to be the one to die for the nation, then I don't see I don't see how you come with the disconnect that you have whenever it comes to him being, like, with everybody else witnessing of who he is, basically. So
well, let me deal with the argument that you put on the table, dealing with them coming out of the land. Those people that murmured against Moses was not everybody, right? You had rebellious people in the congregation. I'm gonna read the account of why they didn't go into the land. This is Numbers, this is Deuteronomy, chapter 1, verse. I'm gonna start at verse 26. I started 25. And they took the fruit of the land in their hearts and brought it down to us and brought us word again and said, it is a good land which the Lord our God doth give us. Notwithstanding, you would not go up, but rebelled against the commandment of the Lord your God. So they were going to get the land. They were on their way. But he said, notwithstanding, you would not go up, but rebelled against the commandment of the Lord your God, and you murmured in your tents and said, because the Lord hated us, he hath brought us forth out of the land of Egypt to deliver us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. Whither shall we go up? Our brethren have discouraged our hearts, saying the people are greater and taller than we, and the cities are great and walled up to heaven, and moreover, we have seen the sons of the Anakim there. Then I said to you, dread not, neither be afraid of them. The Lord your God who go before you, he shall fight for you according to all that he did for you in Egypt before your eyes. And in the wilderness, when thou seen how the Lord thy God bore thee as a man doth bear his son, and all the way that you went until you came to this place. Yet in this thing you did not believe the Lord your God, who went in the way before you to search you out a place to pitch your tents and fire by night, to show you by the way you should go, and in the cloud by day. And the Lord heard the voice of your words and was wroth and swore, saying, surely there shall not one of these men of this evil generation see that good land which I swore to give unto your fathers. Save Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he shall see it, and I will give him the land that he hath trodden upon, and to his children, because he hath wholly followed the Lord. You see what I'm saying? So when we know Joshua was another one that he said was going to get the land. So it wasn't everybody. It was just those people specifically. So to use that to say, well, they didn't believe in, well, I don't believe in the Messiah. I mean, I don't see how you even put those two together to form this specific argument. But as far as you saying Jesus, all the witnesses, the stuff that he did, he came in the name of God and did the miracles and everything like that. Well, I don't want to turn this. I don't want to turn this into, here go Dayvaughn beating up the New Testament. But there's many things that can be said about why people don't believe Jesus is the Messiah. not necessarily a Messiah, but the one who was supposed to come and fight the enemies of Israel and bring them back into their land and gather all the Israelites back into their land and bring in this everlasting righteousness. That specific thing didn't happen, and if you're going to tell me he's going to do it in the future, okay, that's we when that happens, then we will see that. As far as holding him as a prophet, you can call him a prophet, you can call him a teacher, you can call him all these things. But to say that he was the prophet, the Messiah that was to sit on the throne of David, because if we go into Luke 132, his mother was told he shall sit on the throne of David. She didn't see that happen, but that's what she was expecting to happen. Now, I know you could say, well, he's going to do that when he comes back, but the angel told her he will sit on the throne of David. The angel didn't tell her he going to do that when he come back. So even his mom.
Dayvaughn, can I jump in and ask a quick question? When did the angel say he would do that, though? When did the angel say? If the angel did not specify when, then either you, the caller, or myself can put a time limiter on that. What you're saying is the angel didn't say he was going to do it when he come back. The angel didn't say when he was going to do it. So
I agree.
The angel didn't say when. So if the angel did not say when he was going to do it, wouldn't the logical thing to do would be continue reading the narrative and see what the rest of the narrative says when he would do it.
Right, but what I'm talking about as far as what the angel told his mom at that point in time. Yeah, if you read the rest of the book, but Mary didn't have the rest.
Well, listen, you're missing the point. The angel did not say when. So you can't say that because he told her that, then that meant that she would see that. Like, for instance, God told Abraham that of your seed, I will make a great nation. He didn't say when. He just said of your seed, I will make a great nation. But when you keep reading the narrative, we know that didn't happen until the children of Israel went down into Egypt and came out numbering in over 1 million. So you can't take when a prophecy is given and try to make that be the limiter for when it's going to be fulfilled unless the prophecy itself says then. If the angel would have told Mary, yo, you're going to have a son, he's going to sit on the throne of David, you're going to see this in your lifetime. This is going to happen before you die, before you leave this earth. If he didn't say that, then what you need to do is reserve judgment and read the rest of the narrative, and then you can say when it's supposed to happen. But that's being disingenuous. That's like me telling you right now, Dayvaughn, if I tell you right now, as we speak on the phone right now, it's 8:53 Eastern Standard Time. If I say, Dayvaughn, I'm going to give you $20.
Josh, I can hear you, but you're going in and out. So you can say that again?
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, I said for instance. Do you hear me now?
Yeah.
For instance, if I told you right now at 8:54, it just changed, Eastern Standard Time, Dayvaughn, I'm going to give you $20. Yes, it is true that was stated at 8:54 Eastern Standard Time, and I'm going to give Dayvaughn $20. Now, when you agree, just for the sake of argument, when you agree that would be it would be disingenuous of you if you went on social media the very next day saying, Josh said he was going to give me $20. He lied. He didn't give me the $20. When everybody listening here would say, well, Dayvaughn, he didn't say when he would do it. Wouldn't that be disingenuous for you to go on social media?
Yeah, but you got to remember what I said. I said she didn't have a book to continue reading the narrative. Just at that moment in time, if somebody came to you and said, look, you about to have a baby, he going to sit on the throne of David, without telling her after he dies he's going to come back, it would only make sense that she would be expecting this in her lifetime. Now, I know the rest of the book goes into a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm not saying that it doesn't. I'm talking about
nobody's debating that. Nobody's
right,
debating
but I'm trying to answer his question based in real time from Mary's perspective. If somebody came to you and said, look, you about to have a baby, that means that baby's about to be born soon. You about to have a baby, she had the baby. So it's only logical she would be expecting him to be sitting on the throne of David a lifetime.
Listen to what I'm saying. Dayvaughn, agreed. But you cannot use her expectations to dictate doctrine.
Josh, you're going in and out. I don't know if caller is Sal. Is it only me? Because Josh, I hear you talking.
I think it's only you because I can hear him loud and clear actually.
Now I hear. Maybe it's me then. Okay.
Yeah, I can hear a lot of clear.
Listen what I'm saying.
Good.
I can go to the New Testament and show you where Jesus' own apostles expected him to do things in their lifetime. They expected that stuff to happen then and there. But it would be disingenuous of me to use somebody's expectations when the narrative itself tells you that's not the case. You can't go by what Mary assumed. I will be honest with you. If I was Mary, I would think that, he must think this must mean it's going to happen in my lifetime. That's an honest assessment, and it's an honest expectation. But you cannot be genuinely concerned with the expectation. You got to be concerned with what's given. Like when God told Abraham, in your seed shall all the nations be blessed, and I will make your seed a great nation. He never told.
Hold on, Josh. Sal, I'm gonna call in on my cell phone because for whatever reason, this phone I got, I can hear Josh talking, but he's going in and out constantly. So hold on.
Okay. Let me wait for him to come back before I finish.
I'm still listening. You can still talk. I'm just gonna call in from another line.
Oh yeah. Duh. Yeah, you ain't got to necessarily get off. My bad. Yeah. All right. What I was saying is when God told Abraham, in your seed shall all the nations be blessed, and I'm gonna make your seed a great nation. We don't know when Abraham thought that would happen. In fact, what we do know is that Abraham thought it was impossible because he couldn't even have a child by Sarah. But once it happened, we don't know the time frame in Abraham's mind. Abraham could have been expecting that to happen immediately in the distant future until God explained to him later that this would happen in the distant future. You don't know. The Bible tells you that Mary was around. She was at the crucifixion of Jesus. It also tells you that she traveled with Jesus at certain points and heard his doctrine. So she knew by the time he grew up, because he was teaching what he would do, by the time he grew up, whatever she expected when he was first born, that's irrelevant because the New Testament lets you know that it was explained through the teachings of Jesus when he would do certain things. So you can't do it. It's disingenuous for you to read a book and see something and an expectation somebody had and then shut the book and say, well, she was expecting Jesus to do this in her lifetime, even though we don't even say she expected that in her lifetime. I'm just going to side with you and use a little logic and say, okay, she believes it happened in her lifetime. I'm not going to teach that because it don't say that, but I say it's reasonable to assume that she would think he would do that in her lifetime. That's cool, but that's not what the New Testament teaches. You can't go by what people expected Jesus to do, thought Jesus would do, and say he would do, and use that to criticize the New Testament. You got to use what he himself said, and he himself said he would do things when he comes back. I'm not concerned with Mary's expectations. I'm not even concerned with the apostles' expectations. We're supposed to be concerned with that. What did the person in question say he would do and how he would do it? I don't, like Dayvaughn, if you wrote a book, you said you're writing a book right now, right? If somebody told me, well, I expect Dayvaughn to be talking about this when this book come out, and somebody else say, well, I expect Dayvaughn to be talking about that would be disingenuous of me to take what people expect you to do and use that to criticize your book. No, I'm going to wait till Dayvaughn's book is done and read it. Then I'm going to tell y'all what Dayvaughn meant to say. And that's how you're supposed to do with the Bible. You don't judge the Bible, Old or New Testament, by the expectations of the people in it. You judge by what actually went down and what was said would go down. Specifically. That's what I wanted to say about that.
And I can understand what you're saying, but he's, like I said, dealing with the situation we're talking about. Can y'all hear me?
You loud and clear.
Okay. So he brought up, I want to say Caiaphas. And this is where he could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is where he was going in John 11. And one of them named Caiaphas, being high priest that same year, said unto them, you know nothing at all, nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, that the whole nation perish not. And he spoke this not of himself, but being high priest that year, he prophesied that Jesus should die for the nation, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of God who were scattered abroad. Again, that was a prophecy that he should gather together in one the children who were scattered abroad. That didn't happen. The opposite happened. So if I'm going on, again, Mary, who got the original prophecy. And then if I'm going on Caiaphas, which is later on in the narrative, I would expect in him to gather the people, because it doesn't separate. He's going to die and come back and gather. In Caiaphas' specific prophecy, it says that he's going to die for the nation, that the whole nation perish not. But the whole nation was still kicked out, right? And it says that he would gather them together. And we go into the book of James, which is way after. He says, greeting to the 12 tribes that are scattered abroad. So even Caiaphas' prophecy still doesn't jive with somebody on the ground as a Messiah gathering Israel as the prophecy states. So the whole be accountable that I don't believe he was the one to come, and I'm using the New Testament. I'm not even going into what the Tanakh says. I'm using the New Testament saying he's supposed to sit on the throne of David. Okay, it doesn't say a time frame. Very, very fine. But his mother thought, it's safe to say his mother would have probably expected that. And when the people here in Caiaphas give this prophecy that the nation should perish not and that he's going to gather the people, I'm pretty sure they thought this is about to go down. Now, again, to be fair, to be honest, we know Jesus taught other things that would not make this make as much sense as it would if you knew his teachings based on I got to die and come back and all these things. You're going to see the Son of Man coming on clouds of glory and all those things. But based on what Caiaphas is saying, he's saying that the nation is not going to perish. But the nation did perish and the Israel was not gathered. So just by reading this prophecy, they were scattered abroad and the nation did perish. You see what I'm saying? So
the nation did not perish. If the nation perished,
they were kicked, they were scattered, kicked out. When I mean perished, everybody didn't die. What I'm saying is Israel was disbanded and kicked out of their land eventually. So I'm just trying to stick to specifically. But
that's not what perish means. That's not. You got to use it the way perish is used for Israel.
I'm talking about as far as. When
the Bible talks about Israel perishing, that means they don't exist no more, not scattered.
I know.
Perishing means destroyed.
I know, but what I'm saying is, in the context of what's going on, the nation was scattered. The nation was destroyed as far as they got kicked out of the land. The temple was destroyed. People were killed. Lots of people were killed. Then they started getting kicked out of Rome and stuff like that. So, technically the word perish, I know what you're talking about, but I'm just trying to stay in context of what he asked me of why I won't accept this person as a Messiah based on the prophecies in the New Testament.
Yes. Here's a prophecy in the New Testament. I need you to read this for me and tell me what you get out of this.
Okay.
Luke chapter 2 and verse 34. This is at the birth of Jesus, by the way, too. This is at his birth.
And Simeon blessed.
Same time period. Go ahead.
And Simeon blessed him and said unto Mary, his mother, behold, this child is set for the fall and rising again of many in Israel, and for a sign which shall be spoken against.
What does it mean when it says for a fall and a rising?
Meaning people are going to fall off. I mean, you can use this using the New Testament language, the falling away. You know, it says many are going to fall away, and the rising of Israel. Right. Many
what's the rise of Israel?
What's the line of Israel?
No, the rise. What does it mean when the New Testament and Old Testament teach about Israel rising again? What is that talking about?
Basically, you could go into Ezekiel 37, talking about the nation's going to be resurrected, they're going to be risen, or you could talk about spiritually enlightened. You could talk about the nation gaining their glory back, right?
All right. Yep. All agreed. Now, it says this sun is set for the fall and rising of Israel. So what's the opposite of everything you just said about them rising back, resurrecting, coming back to the land and getting their own, ruling again? What's the opposite of that? If rising means all of that, which you correctly stated, what would the fall be?
It'd be the opposite. Death
What's the
and being
opposite?
kicked out of the land. Death and being kicked out of the land.
Right. So the prophecy tells you at his birth, this is in the New Testament, that both would happen. First, there would be a fall and then a rise. So if they were scattered, right, which Jesus also prophesied himself would happen in Luke 21, then you got to have both. You can't just deal with he wants to take the remnant and bring them back. Like Isis said, that's not all there is to it. See, what you're doing is you're itemizing scripture. You pick a scripture and you say, this what this say. I'm going to ignore everything else that's said on this topic. I'm just going to pinpoint and laser focus on this. You can't do that. And this is during the same time period that you just brought up about what the angel told her. This is at the birth of Jesus. Simeon told her that this guy, this son, would be set for a fall and rising of Israel, meaning Jesus is going to be the reason why Israel was scattered, and Jesus is going to be the reason why they get brought back into the land. How was he the reason that they were scattered? Because they crucified God's Messiah, and God punished that whole nation by kicking them out the land. But that same Jesus is going to make them rise again when he brings them back. Now, this isn't about whether you believe that or not. This is a matter of what the New Testament states and what Dayvaughn Mays is either not reading or ignoring. And this is telling you that he's going to do both. You can show me what Isis said. That's cool. But you wouldn't let me get away with going to the Old Testament and just reading what it says on a particular topic and just zeroing in on that particular spot. You're going to say, no, Josh, it speaks about this here, 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 and here too. Get an overall understanding on this. But what you tend to do is you like to go to certain places in the New Testament and you'll just stay on that. And that's cool. Because what Isis said, okay, I'm cool with that. But he also said right here in the Bible that when this guy was first born, when Jesus was first born, it was known by his parents, by John the Baptist's parents, by this guy Simeon, that this guy is going to be the reason why Israel fall and why they rise. This when he was born, Dayvaughn. So what about this prophecy right here? What is your view on this prophecy?
Okay. So
Just to let you know, we have another caller standing by. But I'll let you respond.
Okay. So in real time, what you saying? It says he's going to fall. He's going to be the reason for many to fall and many to rise. Okay. But again, since it doesn't say a time frame, since she's thinking after this is all said and done and the smoke clear, my son is going to be sitting on the throne. Still, it would still be safe to say that she could assume that. And if you keep going in the same chapter, hold on. But you asked me a question. Let me finish what I'm saying.
But you're backpedaling on something you already addressed. You already beat that.
But hold on. Based on the angel telling her, your son is going to sit on the throne of David. Then later on, as she's taking him to get circumcised and everything, another guy comes and tells her this child is going to be the reason for the fall and the rise of many in Israel. Okay, cool. She can still have in her mind that he's going to sit on the throne of David. And then it tells us in the same chapter, if we go down a little bit, that there was a prophetess named Anna, the daughter of Phanuel. Right. I'm going to go to verse 36. She was great age and lived with a husband 7 years from her virginity, and she was a widow about 4 years. She departed not from the temple, but served God and fasted with prayers night and day. And she, coming in that instant, gave thanks likewise unto the Lord, and spoke of him to all those who look for redemption in Jerusalem. That redemption did not happen in Jerusalem, because when you go into this specific word, it says in the Old Testament, this is 3085 in the Greek, lutrosis is the word, in Luke 2:38, ransoming from imprisonment for debt or from slavery, release from national misfortune, liberation, deliverance, and release. So this was something physical that she was waiting on when she saw, because it says she came in that same instant that they was talking to Mary and Joseph telling them about the baby. They did not realize that in their lifetime, right? Because it says they was waiting on the redemption of Jerusalem.
But did it say, Dayvaughn?
I'm not saying it did. What I'm saying is, hold on. Let me finish what I'm saying, Josh. But I'll let you talk, though. I'll let you talk. But let me finish my thought, bro. Let me finish my thought. You can say whatever you got to say.
Going around on the same thing. I've already said
I'm not.
I'm not concerned.
Okay, let me finish my thought. Can I finish my thought, though?
Okay, you just keep saying the same thing over and over again. You're not listening to me, though.
So
you're not listening to me, though.
You asked me a question. I'm trying to answer your question, and I'm trying to stay back dealing with the dude who actually asked the initial question of why I don't. Your question was talking about
my question,
your original one was in Luke 2:34, talking about what does the rise and fall of Israel mean. So
right. So all this other stuff
I
that ain't
addressed,
gonna do with my question.
that. I'm talking, like I said, I'm trying to address the caller as well, because he's the one who asked me why I don't rock with Jesus being the Messiah that was prophesied to come, and I'm using these where you went to even show they were waiting on the redemption in Israel. That didn't happen. They were waiting for him to sit on the throne of David. That didn't happen. They were waiting for the gathering of Israel. That did not happen based on New Testament verses. So there, I'm done with that.
Okay, so my question to you once again, because this is what you keep doing. I need you to pinpoint something for me. I'm asking you. You keep coming out talking about what they expected. Dayvaughn, come on, dude. This brother Josh you talking to, and I'm talking to brother Dayvaughn. We both know you don't study the Bible and base your doctrine off of what the people expected of God's people. You know that's not how you teach. The people expected Moses to turn around and take them back to Egypt. But I don't see you telling nobody, yo, that's what we need to be teaching our people. We need to go back to Egypt. That's what they expected. We ain't talking about what the people expected. We're talking about what the Bible said would happen and when it would happen. Check this out right here. You just pointed this out, verse 38. And she coming in that instant gave thanks likewise unto the Lord and spake of him to all them that looked for redemption in Jerusalem. Or you can say expected redemption in Jerusalem. It does not say that these people would be physically redeemed in Jerusalem. All this is saying is that she was talking to people that was looking forward to it or expecting it. That's all it says. You're making an extra leap and bound to make it say something that it doesn't. You're reading that.
No, I'm not trying to make it say nothing. I'm telling you why I don't rock with it, because had I lived in just like today, if somebody came and say, I'm the Messiah, I'm going to do A, B, and C, and they don't do it, and 2,000 years pass, it will go on record of the guy came, he did a couple miracles, and he never came back. I can't force you to believe in somebody who says what they're going to do. It never came to fruition.
But
so
who's doing
I'm
it?
answering,
who's
dude. I'm sorry if I could call. I didn't mean to call you dude. I think I forgot the brother's name who called and asked me the question. I'm telling you why I don't rock with it, because what was supposed to happen did not happen. If he's going to do it when he comes back, fine. But until that, I'm not going to believe in somebody saying they're supposed to do something that they did not do, especially in the concept of. Yeah, right. You can even say yet in the aspect of I am that person, but I didn't do what was expected of me.
But Dayvaughn, my whole point is you're making somebody out to be a deceiver or a liar because they didn't do something when they specifically said they wouldn't do it until they return. That's not a lie. All you can say is I don't believe he's going to come back. But you can't say that's a lie because people were expecting him to do something in their lifetime when he never put that limitation on it. If I told you, Dayvaughn, I'm going to give you $20, I used this analogy earlier. If I just say, Dayvaughn, I'm going to give you $20, you say, cool, Josh. If you don't ask me when and I don't tell you when, you cannot go on the record saying Josh lied. All you can do, if you really want to get
I don't remember
crazy
saying he lied. I said why I don't accept it. I don't remember saying that he lied.
I get that. I get that.
I'm
but
just
what
saying
you did
why
say, I know. I heard that. But what you did imply when you mentioned the angel speaking to Mary earlier, you based her expectations and you tried to limit that to the lifetime of Jesus based on her expectations only. That's what you did earlier.
I'm not trying to limit. What I'm saying is he's not on that throne, so I can't say he is the Messiah. That's what I'm saying.
Cool. Nobody is on the throne yet.
Exactly.
Okay, so you're waiting on the Messiah. Okay, so
I'm waiting on the Messiah.
You're waiting on the Messiah.
We are waiting on the Messiah. So I'm not going to say it's Jesus when.
I'm not asking you. This is what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, if we both know that a promise was made for somebody to sit on that throne, who would be the Messiah.
Correct.
We both agree on that. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, if we're both waiting on a Messiah, right, there are still a lot of expectations that have not been fulfilled, both from the New Testament standpoint and from the Old Testament standpoint. Because it even tells you in the first century, a lot of people were expecting the Messiah to come during that time period before Jesus was even really born. Like shortly before the first century, people were doing that. So what I'm saying is, when you discredit Jesus, you're discrediting that based off of everybody who had expectations of something that ain't happened. There's people right now in the Jewish community who's given up and become what is known as Reformed Jews because they don't believe that the Messiah will ever come. And they became Reformed Jews. They just lost their faith. So what do you say about people like that who are to not only believers like you? And they say, yo, you said we've been waiting 2,000 years. Well, how long have you been waiting, Dayvaughn? We've been waiting 2,000. How long y'all been waiting? Answer that question.
All right,
how long have you been waiting?
Yeah, I'm going to let you respond, but we got some callers, though. Okay,
yeah, we'll get to it. It's up to Dayvaughn.
I've been waiting just as long as anybody has who's coming to the knowledge. And you're right. Even in Acts chapter 5, Gamaliel says, people done came and already tried to put this on the table that they were somebody great, and they died and were scattered. So leave the Christians alone. This is what it says in Acts chapter 5. So Jesus was the first one coming saying he was supposed to change things. There was other people before him. And, like you said, many expectations have come and gone. So, yeah.
Okay,
we all wait.
So from an Old Testament perspective, time-wise, if the Christians have been waiting 2,000 years, how long have you, representing not only faith, how long have y'all been waiting for the Messiah? Please honestly answer that question based on the time frame. If you don't know, I'll tell you how long it's been.
It's been over 2,000 years. If the New Testament is 2,000 years old, the expectation of a Messiah to come in and usher in a new kingdom. I mean, we can go back to when King David told Solomon he was supposed to sit or when the Most High told David Solomon's throne was supposed to be established forever. So we can go back, even to then. So yeah, it's been, and that was like 300, maybe 300 years after the Exodus. So 3,000 years, 3,500 years, give or take.
Actually, if you go back to you said 3,500 years. If you go back to even if you look at the book of Genesis, when you talk about the Shiloh, which was interpreted by the ancient Hebrews to be a messianic, that takes you back even further. So my point is, the reason why I asked you that is because you keep saying 2,000 years. You keep throwing that out there like that's a big deal, but yet you just admitted you've been waiting from your worldview longer than that. So
right, and I'm not concerned about the time frame. I'm talking about why I'm not placing it on no specific person. That's why I brought up the time frame. Because, and again, I'm trying to answer the man's question, saying, why don't you believe? And it's like, okay, well, after all this time, if he's still based on what the New Testament said he's supposed to do, if he hasn't done that, you can't hold me accountable for not believing it. So yeah. We all wait.
Yeah, that wasn't what I was doing. But yeah, let's go to the other callers. That's not what I was doing though.
Yeah.
I got you. Sal? Oh, great. Sal? Dayvaughn?
I'm here.
Okay, I'm about to
say, you'll fall off the grid in a minute, Sal. You'll fall off the grid in a minute.
I know. Let's go to the next one, though. Let's go to 770. You're live. 770. Go ahead.
Shalom, fella. Shalom, brethren. This Brother Dre. Shalom, Brother Josh. Shalom, Dayvaughn Mays. I call you Mays, man. Shalom, fellas.
Shalom.
Mayday.
Yes, sir. I got a couple of quick questions. I'm gonna make them real quick. My first one was for Dayvaughn, and you just mentioned something about one of the reasons you didn't accept Jesus as a Messiah because he didn't sit on the throne. So I want to ask you real quick, Dayvaughn, who's sitting on the throne
today?
Yes, sir.
Nobody.
So who do you believe is the Messiah?
There's a way to be seen. Somebody from the line of David.
So you don't believe it is David, you believe it's someone from the line of David?
No, because we know a lot of people use Ezekiel 37 to say it says David, and it says David's going to be the prince, and it says David like 2 or 3 times in Ezekiel, but we know the Most High told David out of his loins will come, somebody to reign. So somebody from the line of David.
I'm not arguing with you. I'm just asking.
It says in multiple places. It says in multiple places. People from the throne of David will, basically establish a kingdom. In Jeremiah it talks about it, and Isaiah talks about it. In Psalms, I want to say Psalm 132.
That's cool. Like I said, I'm in no contention with it. I know you just mentioned though you didn't accept Jesus because he's not on the throne. So you're mentioning now David or his descendants, or is David or his descendants on the throne right now?
No.
So how can they be more? How can they be equivalent to that position if Jesus can't be based on that?
Again, based on what y'all saying is y'all saying he is. And I'm saying I have yet to see. I have yet to see David or his descendants on the throne. I have yet to see Jesus ruling on the throne of David. So I'm not going to say it's any of them yet because it's not happening. It's not going down. It's somebody.
But you just told me though you believe it's David or his descendants. But David nor his descendants are on the throne right now.
I meant somebody from the house of David because I only brought up David because, like I said, people use Ezekiel. People use Ezekiel 37 to say, see, it says David, and it does say David, but we know in context it's talking about the line of David. It's not specifically talking about the man David.
Right.
So I'm waiting,
Fair enough.
Just like everybody else.
I like that you say that, but even in all fairness, even in that, we don't see a descendant of David on the throne right now, do we? Or you expound on it.
We don't see Jesus. We don't see David, son of David. We don't see nobody. We see prime ministers and things like that.
Right, but see, my position for that and yours is different, so I'm just going based on your logic. You just mentioned Jesus. You didn't believe, one of the reasons you didn't believe Jesus was that Messiah is because he's not on the throne. So with that same logic, when you have to also rule out David or whoever you believe his descendant to be, based on that particular logic that you just gave.
No, because the prophecy says this was going to happen. So I can't rule out that it's not going to be a son of David. I can rule out a name. If you want to throw out names, saying it's going to be Hezekiah again, it's going to be Manasseh again, we can rule out because it doesn't say whose name is going to be on the throne. Now there are prophecies that he's going to be called this, he's going to be called that, but we know people have multiple names in the scripture. Solomon was called Solomon, but his name was Jedediah. So I mean, we know people are called many things. You know what I'm saying? So you based on what you're saying is. At the end of the day, this is where Tanakh only and New Testament believers all have to agree is we are waiting.
But in the difference, though, in all fairness, like Josh said, in all fairness, the New Testament, you know what I'm saying, it clarifies, it specifies why in the position that we have. So I'm not ruling nothing out based on a position. You mentioned, like I said, you just mentioned the Messiah. One reason that you didn't accept Jesus as that Messiah because he's not on the throne. Neither is David nor anyone else you believe is on the throne. But that wasn't my question. That was just something that I caught. So I just wanted to ask you a quick theoretical question real quick, and I got a scripture that I wanted to go to after that, if that's all right. The question that I wanted to ask you is, do you believe that the Most High is the most merciful in existence?
The most. It says
can I find anyone more merciful than the Most High?
More merciful? I mean,
yes,
how do you clarify mercy? Because at times the Most High can be looked at as, it says he shows himself cruel to the cruel. Yeah, he says he shows himself cruel to the cruel, right now. He has mercy. He has mercy on the merciful. So I mean, and he says, "I will have mercy upon whom I will have mercy." So to say this is a verse that says in existence, the way you worded it, I'm the most merciful.
Right.
But I would think anything that the Most High do that's good would far exceed what a man can do.
Fair enough. So can I find a merciful being that can be more merciful than the Most High?
I mean, to my knowledge, like I said, if the Most High is the creator of all, I don't think there's nothing that could exceed what he could do that would be a good thing. Whether that be love,
I agree with
whether
you.
that be justice,
I agree with you.
Whether that be mercy,
right.
Whether that so I would say, as far as I know, no.
I agree with you. Can I find anyone more just than the Most High?
I would say no. He's perfect.
I agree with you as well.
We're not perfect.
We're in agreement.
We're in agreement on that. So I'm saying it to say, if the Most High was just to forgive you for something that you done wrong, like I know a judge that wouldn't forgive you for what you did wrong. I know a judge that can be pretty merciful. You know what I mean? So if he just forgives you and lets go what you've done wrong, and I know a judge that wouldn't necessarily do that, how can he be the most just?
Because again, the Most High sees all things. He knows your heart. He knows your intent. So when he's merciful on somebody, he's looking at things from angles that we can't see. We can't see into nobody's heart. You know what I'm saying? Because remember when Samuel was looking for the one to anoint. He told Samuel, "You're looking at them with your eyes. I'm looking into their hearts."
Right.
So,
well, I'll go ahead and expound. I'm saying it to say because I believe the Most High is the most merciful and most just. I just believe from a position, yes, he atoned for the things that we do wrong with an essence of himself. So it's not a situation to him just letting go something that I've done wrong. It's in a sense, it's what I've done wrong. I believe, you know what I'm saying, in a sense, it's been atoned for. Same thing with the just, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, the things I've done wrong, I don't think they've been just let go. I believe he's atoned for them through an essence of himself, and that, in a sense, is mercy as well. So I believe it's mercy. I believe he's the most merciful and most just. Now, if you don't believe in, the Messiah that, I believe in or we believe in or Christians believe in who atone for those things, how can the particular deity or God that you believe in be most just if he's just willing to wipe your slate clean?
Well, he says, "I'm going to forgive you of all your sins and cleanse you." So I mean,
true enough. He says a lot of things, but with everything he says, we know that there's like a true enough. But we all agree that there's a protocol in which in ways things happen. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned earlier, you said. You mentioned, I think you mentioned Mary didn't have a book to read to see that, the things that Jesus would do or didn't. Neither did Abraham. You know what I'm saying? So when he gave Abraham a promise, Abraham didn't have that book either to see or to validate that. So I was just saying it to say, I didn't know I was just trying to see from your position, how is the God that you believe in all merciful and all just at the same time if he just wipes your slate clean? I understand that he can do that. I understand that he will do that. I just believe that there's a process in which that takes place in which that happens. But my question was about a quick scripture, and I just want to get your perspective on it. It's Amos chapter 4. I'll read it. You can just let me know when you get there.
I probably know where you're going with this.
Exactly where I'm going, right.
All right, okay.
Right, I'll start at 9. You know where we at.
Okay.
I'll start at 9. Yeah, cool. So Amos chapter 4, verse 9, it says, "I have smitten you with blasting and with mildew with your gardens and your vineyards and your fig trees and your olive trees increase. The palmer worm devoured them, yet have ye not returned unto me, saith the Lord." Who's speaking in this verse?
Amos is talking. We talking about. Hold on. Amos chapter 4.
Yeah, Amos chapter 4, verse 9. The verse was about 10, but I just started at 9.
When your gardens and your right. So I mean, the Most High is the one giving judgments. I mean, so. This is Amos.
So is Amos smitten?
Because if you go back to the beginning of the verse, hear this word. We know verse 2. The Lord has sworn in His holiness that, lo, the day shall come. So I mean, this is Amos telling you what the Most High wants him to say.
With the Lord. Okay,
right.
So Amos is in verse 9. Amos is relaying the message the Most High wanted said, right?
Right.
Okay. So verse 10, I have sent among you pestilence after the manner of Egypt. Your young men have I slain with the sword and have taken away your houses, and I have made the stink of your camps to come up unto your nostrils. Yet have ye not returned unto me, saith the Lord. Who's speaking here? Is the same narrative?
This is the Most High. Amos is telling you what the Most High wants him to say.
Well, okay, cool. Now, verse 11. I have overthrown some of you as God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and ye were as firebrand plucked out of the burning, yet have ye not returned unto me, saith the Lord. And who's speaking here?
It's the Most High, and when it says, I have overthrown some of you as God overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, he's speaking in third person. Or, and I'm going to be fair, you can even say that, and I don't know if you know the language, but we know angels are also referred to as Elohim in places, and the Most High used angels to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah.
That's fair enough, and I was actually going to go there after you mentioned that. That's good that you said that.
It could be the Most High speaking in third person, and I'll give you an example. The Lord answered Moses, is the Lord's arm too short? So he's speaking in third person right there. You know what I'm saying? In the Numbers 11:23, he told Abraham the same thing, and Sarah, can I really have a baby? It's like, is the arm of the Lord too short? Like, I can't do that? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When Moses said, show me your glory, he said, the Lord. You know what I'm saying? He's saying his name in front of Moses. So go ahead.
So I'm sorry. So in verse 9 and 10, it's like you said, it's Amos speaking through the Most High. But then in verse 11, we have Amos, or we have a possibility of it being a third person.
That's what I'm reading. Because like I said, it could be the Most High speaking of himself. Because when you read the account in Genesis, the angel says, we have come to destroy the city. But when you keep going, it says, and the Lord destroyed the city.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
So when you put that in context, for instance, when we read about a war, it says, and David smote the Philistines, but we know David had help smiting the Philistines. But it don't name everybody who helped him. When we know the Most High used the angels to destroy the city. So go ahead.
You're right. I agree with you. So I'm just saying that to say when we not necessarily when you mention the past tense argument or certain things regarding the argument, because we can go in the Old Testament. I'm sure you would agree that the Most High is identified. We see times and instances where he's identified as Yahweh, YHWH. He's identified as Angel of Yahweh, YHWH, and Spirit of Yahweh. Right? Would you agree? Because some of those instances you just gave.
I wouldn't say he is called the angel of now there is an angel of the Lord. I wouldn't say that is God, because I mean if you're to be a messenger,
I'm sorry,
the word angel means messenger. So if you're a messenger of something, that means somebody sent you. If you're the messenger, somebody sent you to give a message. So I wouldn't say that was him. You know what I'm saying? But he was sent by God. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just looking for the verse now. I believe so. When it's Sarah or Rebecca, they say they have seen God because it mentioned originally in Exodus. I'm pulling the verse now. I'm sorry, in Genesis. I'm pulling the verse now, but it mentions originally the angel of the Lord. Then it says, then she said, "I have seen God." What would you suppose of that?
Right. Well, people would equate if I'm seeing a messenger of God, I'm seeing something that represents him. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just like, for instance, Manoah thought he was going to die when he saw the angel, right? But that wasn't the Most High. But he was like, he was terrified. So because he seen something that represents the Most High, and his wife had to tell him if God was going to kill us, he wouldn't accept the sacrifices and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So seeing the representation of something that's the Most High is almost like seeing him himself. For instance, it says, stand back and see the salvation of the Lord. When he killed the Egyptians, they didn't see the Most High, but they seen what he did. You see what I'm saying? So seeing a representation of him is different. And just to give you another example,
you can go ahead.
In Numbers 22 and 22, it says, and God's anger was kindled because he went, and the angel of the Lord stood in the way as an adversary against him. So we see the Most High get upset, and an angel of the Lord came and drew a sword and did all the stuff he did with Balaam. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with the story. You sound like you studied. You know what I'm saying? So this is not the Most High standing and talking and dealing with Balaam, but the Most High was angry, and the angel of the Lord went to represent him as he was upset with Balaam.
Fair enough. So if I believe Jesus is a representative of the Most High, because I'm not sure, but a little earlier in the discussion, I think that might have came up about, people referring to Jesus in that manner. If I believe Jesus is a representation of the Most High, is there a problem in me referring to him as God?
Referring to him as God?
If that's what's been going on throughout the Old Testament or other times, where, like you just said, a messenger or a representative of the Most High has been referred. That's how it has referred to him. Like it even says the Spirit of Yahweh. I mean, before we go there, But what's the difference between the Spirit of Yahweh and God Himself?
Well, it's almost like an essence or something that the Most High puts over you. For instance, when he took the kingdom from Saul, it says, "And the Spirit of the Lord left him, and he sent the evil spirit from the Lord on him." So now we got to say, well, God has an evil spirit, because it just says the Lord departed from him, meaning He was with him. Now this evil spirit came. So you got to say, was that the devil? Was that a demon? But it says from the Lord, right?
Right.
So it's something that David says, "Do not take your Holy Spirit from me." That means the Most High is something that He can give and He can take away, just like your life, your animation, for lack of a better term, what makes you tick, what makes you walk and breathe, what makes you animate this dirt that we are. You know what I'm saying? So
fair
the
enough.
Spirit of the Lord. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So based on that, my question was, like I said, because it was mentioned earlier about Christ being referred to as God. If I believe He is a messenger, a representative of the Most High, is it a issue in Him being referred to as God?
As God Himself, I would say yes, because He even told Satan in Matthew chapter 4, "The Lord alone you shall serve, and only Him you should give, this service to." So, to refer to Him as God, in that passage, He didn't refer to Himself as God, because it says in the book of James, God cannot be tempted with evil, and clearly, Satan was tempted Jesus in the wilderness, right? And Satan was viewed as evil, right? So that means that couldn't have been God if He's being tempted with evil. Somebody's asking him to worship Him.
So how would it be okay to refer to an angel as God?
Well, people think
when the New Testament clearly identifies that Jesus is above all the angels. How you know what I'm saying? How would you be okay with saying it's okay to refer to angels? Absolutely, as a servant. Yes, when He came in the flesh, and that, you're absolutely right. That's a whole other conversation, and that's not nothing that I'm avoiding. But what I'm saying is, how can it be okay? How can it be okay, like you just said, to refer to an angel, the angel of the Lord, you know what I'm saying, and the Spirit of the Lord as God, and when I believe the same representative of God, how could that be a problem? When in the same New Testament, it also said,
God. I don't under. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh no, you can go ahead. I'm not and I'm not pushing the necessarily God narrative, because you even mentioned earlier me and God, Elohim. The term is used in so many different ways. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not even really pushing that narrative in itself. I'm just asking, based on your position, if the Old Testament contains a system where God is identified or is attached to representatives of Himself, whether it be the Spirit of the Lord, the angel of the Lord, Yahweh, whatever the case may be. And we know, like you just said, like an angel came and wrestled with Jacob, I believe. But it said, Jacob, they said they had seen God. They had wrestled with God. So how could we have an issue with someone that we believe is of the same authoritative figure or the same representative of God? How could we have a problem with that same terminology?
Well, if you let's say, for argument's sake, you're looking at Jesus as a judge, right? Then calling Him a God will be correct according to Torah terminology, because we know the judges were called gods. So you could say Aaron was a god, Moses was a god, and people looked at them as gods. But as the Most High, when according to, and I know this can go all over the place in the New Testament depending on what book you're reading, but based on Matthew chapter 4, when Jesus is tempted by the devil, clearly if he was God, He wouldn't have said, you know what I'm saying, the Lord alone you shall serve. Because basically He would have authority over Satan if He was God, right? Most High rules everything, and He hadn't said that He had authority over heaven and earth at that point. So, based on I hear what you're saying, but to refer to Him as God opposed to a representative, those are two distinct things. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough.
Even like when Moses was called a God unto, I'm gonna make you a God unto Pharaoh. Pharaoh did not look at him as the Most High, because remember he said, "Pray for me." He would have. If you're not gonna tell God to pray to Himself for you, He would have been looking at Moses and say, "You know what? I'm sorry. If he thought he was God, he would have just gave him his apology. Tell the Don I'm sorry. But if you're talking to the Don, you're gonna be like, look, I'm sorry. Tell the Don I'm sorry. He told Moses, tell God I'm sorry. But Moses was a God unto Pharaoh. That's what it says. So he wasn't looked at as God, but again, he was a representative of God.
Yeah, I apologize, Dre. I got to let Brother Josh respond, and we got some more callers standing by. I appreciate your questions, though. Josh, you can respond, brother.
I kind of got lost in the narrative because they were talking about so much stuff. I wouldn't even know where to begin. You know what I'm saying? So we can go to the next call, and maybe when Dre call back in, if he gets back through, we can clarify it to me because I know he wanted me to touch on that too. But I got lost in the narrative. I'm not even gonna lie, y'all.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, and just so the people know, we got people calling in now. Okay, we got people lined up now, ready to ask questions, and we got plenty of time, family. So the number is 319-527-6239. Just press number 1, and we'll add you in. Let's go to the next person. Let's go to 315. You're live. 315.
Peace, can you hear me?
Hey, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
Not much. I'm pretty good. Peace to the super teacher, mega leader, Brother Josh. It's your boy Ariel, a.k.a. Sound Mind, a.k.a. the Prince of Positivity. Sorry, not.
Praise God.
And what's up to Dayvaughn Mays as well.
Shalom.
All right. So I was listening. I wasn't listening from the beginning. So but one part that caught my mind was the scripture you tried to bring out about the expectation of Mary. So when you were talking about the expectation of Mary, was you trying to use that to discredit the fact that Christ is the Messiah, or what was your reasoning for trying to bring that out, if you can help me understand?
Based on the guy's question, he asked me why I don't believe Jesus is the Messiah. And I think extensively we went over nobody is on the throne of David today, so I'm not going to say anybody is the Messiah. There's candidates. We can talk about candidates all day. And even today, and I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if you're aware, but for instance, if you was to go to India, there's all kinds of yogis and miracle workers all throughout India that do, according to the people, marvelous things. And if they say that they're the Messiah based on their miracles and things like that, but you got to wait till I come back, then we would all have to wait till they actually prove that they are the Messiah when they come back and do what they're supposed to do. So based on his question, I was just using that as one of the examples of nobody's on the throne of David, because that's what was expected of him. I wasn't trying to put a time frame on when he was to sit on the throne. I'm just saying if that's one of the criteria and he hasn't done that, I'm not going to place, the crown on his head when he's not there to receive the crown. You get what I'm saying?
Okay, so what you're saying is, I think I got it for the most part. So what you're saying is, since he didn't sit on the throne his first time around, therefore you're not waiting for the second time around, even though you could be proven wrong that when he come back the second time around, if you're here to see that, right? Then you'll accept him.
If he came back in the sky in the clouds, I mean, what could I say? If he came and did everything that the Tanakh said he was supposed to do, then I would have to shut up, right? But that has yet to be seen, and I don't want to go into all the. People know me for my stance on the New Testament. I don't want to turn this ugly, because once I start saying what I want to say, well, I ain't gonna say what I want to say, but all the things I can go into, the rest of the show is going to be about Jesus and the Messiah, and I don't want this to be about that for the rest of the night. I know y'all free to ask whatever y'all want, but I think I've exhausted that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not eager to just do that. You know what I'm saying? But it sounds like that's what it's going to be. If that's what the kind of night it's going to be, then that's just what it is. But I would rather not go there, because I know people get a certain spirit on them, and the callers are going to change and everything. It's going to turn to a different night. So, Just to be honest,
So
like
you're
I
saying
said,
that the callers get a certain spirit on them. Do you get a certain spirit on you when this topic arises, or just the callers?
well, it's not. It's basically, it's give and take. You know what I'm saying? When people are coming at you constantly on the same topic, I'm going to bring out more.
So
things
you get a spirit
that
on you too. So take accountability for your spirit first before you put the spirit on the caller.
No, I'm not saying nothing. I'm not saying that it's a
You
bad
already
thing.
said it though. You said that
No,
the callers
that's
are
not
going to
what
get a spirit
I'm not
on them.
saying. When I say a
You already
spirit
said
on
it.
it, I'm not saying. Hold on, bro. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying that they're going to call in with no negativity. I'm saying is that's going to be the only topic of the night. That's what I mean. The spirit of we're only going to talk about this all night. I'm not saying that they're going to call in to be nasty or disrespectful, and that I'm going to do that in return, because I'm not known for being disrespectful to people. I've never made videos about nobody. I've never done none of that stuff. So I'm not talking about that kind of spirit. I'm talking about this topic people will run this topic to death for the rest of the night. And so far, as wide as the Tanakh is, and as wide as the New Testament is, all we've been talking about is who's the Messiah, almost every question. It's fine. That's fair. This is the hot seat. This is what it is. But there's a lot of stuff to talk about in the scriptures, is what I'm saying. So that's what I meant by a spirit. I'm not talking about people's attitudes.
All right. Thank you for that clarity. That's what I was just trying to figure out, because when Josh was asking you to answer the question, I felt like you wasn't really answering the question, because you kept trying to revert back to the fact that since he didn't do it the first time around, therefore he's not the Messiah. So that's all I want to understand it on. So that's all.
Because
Thanks,
neither
Sal,
did
for,
David's
put
sons,
me in.
right? David's sons didn't do it the first time around either, but we're still to expect the son of David to sit on that throne. But the first time around, David's sons didn't do it, right? So I can use the same criteria for them as well, just to be fair.
Okay, let me just chime in on something. Let me chime in. Can y'all hear me?
Here we go.
Can anybody hear me? Yeah, I was saying that. But see, here's the thing, though. The Old Testament gives other prophecies of the Messiah that Jesus did fulfill. So it's not like Jesus came and just like didn't do anything. The Old Testament paints two portraits of a Messiah. It paints a suffering Messiah and it paints a victorious Messiah. And this is how the earliest interpretations of the Tanakh stated. You follow what I'm saying? The earliest interpretations paint a suffering Messiah and a triumphant Messiah. That's the reason why the so-called Jews came up with Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Joseph. They created that division. They got Messiah ben Joseph comes and he does all the suffering and he's killed. And then Messiah ben David comes and he does all the victorious conquering stuff. My point is Jesus most definitely fulfilled the prophecy of the suffering Messiah. And so what a lot of people have done today, since they can see that, they try to go back and they try to reinterpret Old Testament scripture that talks about a suffering Messiah, and they try to read the individual out of that and try to make that the nation of Israel. But there's some prophecies in the Bible. If you read them all the way through and you're honest, there's no way it's talking about the nation of Israel. Especially when you go to Zechariah and they talk about your king arise of lowly riding on a donkey. No Old Testament king ever did that. No Old Testament king ever came lowly, meaning humble, riding on a donkey. That never happened. So you still have to take into consideration that needs to happen. So whatever Messiah you waiting on, Dayvaughn or anybody else who's listening, they still got to come and suffer first before they do anything. That's what the Old Testament picture paints. And what the scholars of old could not rationalize is how can the Old Testament, this was the issue before there was a such thing of the New Testament. The rabbis of old struggled with the concept of how can the prophets paint a defeated Messiah and a victorious Messiah at the same time. The New Testament answers that dilemma by telling you this Messiah would do one and then later on do the next. But in order for people to deny Jesus, they have to deny the suffering servant prophecies because Dayvaughn don't want to believe he's waiting on and he correct me if I'm wrong, but Dayvaughn don't want to believe he's waiting on somebody that's going to come and die, gonna get beat down, smacked around, spit upon. He ain't waiting on that. He waiting on somebody to come and bust some head. That's what he's waiting on, and that's what the Tanakh paints. But the Tanakh also paints a suffering Messiah who would be humble, who would be beaten, who would be spat upon. And you can't just ignore those things, and you can clearly see Jesus fulfilled that. Even when I went to the prophecy in Luke, where it said, "Set for the fall and rising of Israel," Israel fell. That prophecy was fulfilled. So everything Jesus said that would happen to Israel as a nation, let's talk about those prophecies right there. Everything Jesus said that would happen to Israel as a nation happened perfectly. So why would we doubt anything else that he said? Just because it ain't happened yet. It's not like he said something would happen and it didn't happen. We're talking about something that he said would happen. Every prophecy starts with a wait and see perspective. You can believe all you want to, but you won't know for sure until it comes to pass. When Jesus said certain things would happen back in the day, they had a wait and see. 70 AD came. Somebody explain to me how everything Jesus said that would happen in 70 AD perfectly happened, down to the smallest detail. I got a whole class on it. It's on Debate Talk for You. It's titled 70 AD, Undeniable Proof Jesus was the Messiah. Not a single soul called in to dispute anything that was said. And I opened up the phones, I don't know how many times. Nobody disputed that. So we got to deal with the suffering Messiah too. And that's the part where a lot of Tanakh only Hebrews want to pretend like they don't see that suffering Messiah. They don't see that beat down Messiah, that humble Messiah. That's in Zechariah. Your king cometh lowly, riding on the donkey. My question to Dayvaughn is, what king was that? What king came riding lowly on the donkey? These are the type of questions I want to know, because as far as the Tanakh go, I don't see no king come riding lowly on the donkey. You know what I'm saying? It said, your king. What king? Okay, it wasn't Jesus. Fine, that's what you believe. But you still got to be waiting on the king riding on the donkey. You still got to be waiting on that. You can't just get rid of the non-threatening verses about the Messiah. You know, all the little lowly lamb and meek messages. That's what people have done. Even the so-called Jews knew this was a dilemma. That's why they created two Messiahs. They gave one Messiah dual personalities. They split them into two individuals. Y'all can look this up. Anybody who's looking this up, just Google Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Joseph. And they will tell you they came up with this because they could not rectify a conquering and a suffering Messiah in the same individual. So what did they do? They just said, okay, we're gonna make two people. One suffers, one rules. Cool. What do a lot of Tanakh onlys do? They just took another approach. They said, okay, we don't see no suffering. We're going to say Isaiah 53, that's not talking about an individual, that's about the nation of Israel. But then if you look at that same verse, it tells you this guy was innocent and he did no sin. It tells you that about this person in Isaiah 53. That's never been a description of Israel. Never has Israel in the history of Israel ever been described as no sin or faultless. Never. Even in the same book of Isaiah, it calls them sinners. So you have to do little maneuvers like that to get around Jesus. I'm not trying to get anybody to believe in Jesus. I just want y'all to see the gymnastics people have to perform in the scriptures to get away from Jesus. Like this whole thing with Hezekiah. Come on, man. Isaiah 9 is not talking about no Hezekiah. I ain't trying to get you to believe it's talking about Jesus. Come on, man. That ain't no Hezekiah. Because I can show you all the stuff you said about Hezekiah, and I can show you other kings in his lineage. Like he said, he did a lot of might. He did a lot of mighty works, or he did. His might is recorded. It's like 4 other kings in the book of Kings and Chronicles. It said the same thing about them. Use the same word. They're might. So that doesn't make Hezekiah that person because they say that. It could be anybody after Hezekiah who is described as might. And as I said, Hezekiah is mentioned by name in Isaiah every time he's referred to. So why would it get all cryptic when it comes to this prophecy? Why not just say Hezekiah was born and he will rule, he'll be a king, he'll be a God, he'll be an everlasting father. And why is he called everlasting? These are things that are not being addressed. You're dealing with the father part, Dayvaughn. But what about the everlasting? These are questions that people they want to know. This is the hot seat. How was Hezekiah an everlasting father? Abraham was called a father. But the only everlasting father I ever read about in the Tanakh is God. I ain't read about nobody else called no everlasting Father until you get to Isaiah chapter 9, other than God. And this person was born. So you say, oh, he was called the mighty God. Yes, judges and rulers were called the mighty God. True. If that's all it said, then that would be open for interpretation. But it said everlasting Father. Everlasting. And it said his government would not end. That only makes sense if you're dealing with somebody who's eternal, who's everlasting. That sounds like a God to me. Not a God judge, a God deity. That's honest right there. That's an honest assessment of that verse. So I need to know about, like, why does he call the everlasting Father? In what sense was Hezekiah everlasting? In what sense? But that's all I just wanted to throw about it. Oh, and one more thing. This is the hot seat, Dayvaughn. So people, if the audience want to ask us all night about the same dang thing over and over again, you can get frustrated. I can get frustrated. But that's the nature of the hot seat. If they want to turn this into, we just want to ask you about your views of the New Testament, then you just got to eat that. If they can't, all the callers ask me the same thing, like, what's your view on Jesus? What's your view on Jesus? I might voice it like you did, like, hey, that's all y'all want to ask me about. But if that's what they want to do, that's what we give them. You know what I'm saying? And there ain't nothing wrong if it turned into that. If that's what it turned into, all that means is that's what the people wanted. And we here on the hot seat to give the people what they want. But that's it.
Yeah, Dayvaughn, you can respond. We got other callers standing by. Keep it in mind. Good.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, if that's what it's going to turn into, I'm fine with it. I mean, during the trial, that's what it was. It was, you know, as Dayvaughn all the questions. So I'm not tripping at all. You know what I'm saying? I knew coming into this could turn into this. So that doesn't bother me. I just figure people want to know more things. Yeah, exactly.
Then I say that too. Yeah, I said it too.
Right. Dealing with only because we talked about it a little bit, but because you covered a lot of stuff. Going back to Isaiah 9, to refer to the everlasting Father. What I would say is God never told David that he would come and be his son. He said, out of your body will he come. He never says, I'm going to send a spirit. He never says that. Out of multiple places, out of your loins, the fruit of your body will sit on your thrones. Psalm 132 and 11. So I mean, to place that as God himself, then we would have to see God telling David that, because he even says, if your son sin, then I will punish them. We see this in Psalm 89. If your son sins, I'm going to punish him. In 2 Samuel 7, 11 through 15, if he sins, I'm going to punish him. So he never said that he was going to send him this perfect Messiah that's painted in the New Testament. Even the Messiahs in the Tanakh were never painted as perfect people who were sinless. Even the Messiah who was the priest in Leviticus chapter 4, it tells you the law if he actually sins. So the fact that the Most High never told David that he was going to be his son, I would have to say, you know, and I'm not a Hebrew scholar. I'm not a Hebrew. No, when I say Hebrew, I'm talking about as far as the language goes, going into the because I want to say it says like Eved Av, something like that, as far as everlasting Father. I can't break down the language like that. I'm not about to pretend that I can, but I would have to rule out God because he never said he's going to be David's father. You mentioned that Israel was never said that they would be without sins, or something that they would never be, called without iniquity or sinless. In Zephaniah 3 and 13, it says the remnant.
I said they were never described that way in history, not in no future prophecy, because that's where you're going. I said in history. That's what I meant. But you clarify that.
Right, but
in history.
Right, but see, right. So I mean, and we know that we can. It's the same situation dealing with Isaiah 53, depending on which translation. It'll say he shall be born. Some translations say he is born, he was born. So just dealing with, we can't put the time frame on it because it doesn't give the time frame. But I'm just trying to deal with everything you said. It says the remnant of Israel shall not do iniquity, nor speak lies, neither shall they have a deceitful tongue be found in their mouth. for they shall feed and lie down, and none shall make them afraid. And there's also a prophecy in Isaiah that says that the Gentiles will see your righteousness, and that's what's going to make them, come and want to be a part of you. As far as
Dayvaughn, so I can just interject because before you continue on the false premises, if I can interject, what you're saying is not related to what I said, though. What I said was, and I agree with everything you said, because I know we both agree what you're quoting is future prophecy. I'm saying at the time where the Isaiah 53 prophecy was delivered to Isaiah, when he wrote that, at that time in Israel's history, Israel was never, from that point all the way back, even all the way up to now, Israel has never been known as without sin. What you're reading now is something that's going to happen later times, because I know you agree that Israel is still sinning now. Both people who know they Israel or think they Israel, whatever, and both people who not. So you're reading something and you're taking something in the future and you're misapplying it. I'm not saying you're doing it on purpose. You're misapplying it to something I said. I said in Isaiah 53, when it says that this person would be would be without sin and he would be killed for the sins of Israel. This is a sinless person. That's what it says. He's innocent and he's dying and being bruised for something he didn't do. So I'm saying Isaiah 53 up to that point and all in Israel history continuing after that. That's why Israel was eventually scattered. There has never been a time in Israel's history up to now that Israel has ever been sinless. I know you agree with me on that. If there is a time in history where Israel was sinless, nothing was.
Well, like you said, like you were saying earlier, if you continue to read the narrative and put everything into context, in Isaiah 53, it says that he shall divide the spoil. Now, excuse me, we know if you're applying this to Jesus, he never divided no spoil. But it says in Zechariah 14:1, behold, the day of the Lord cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. This is speaking about the nation of Israel dividing spoils, like it says in Isaiah 53. We don't read about this with Jesus dividing any spoils from no wars and things of that nature. So, again, there's future prophecy in Isaiah 53 because we know Israel went into captivity. They came back into the land. They went back into they got oppressed by the Greeks, and then the Romans came and oppressed them. So we don't read about them after their captivity going in and dividing spoils from other nations. In this context, that's dealing with Zechariah 14 and the rest of the narrative of Zechariah 14 that explains what spoil they're going to be dividing. So
okay, hold
to
on.
apply
wait,
that
wait,
to,
hold on.
But hold on, Josh. I'll let you.
Okay.
I'm trying to answer all these questions because you dealt with a lot of stuff. So you brought up the suffering servant. Yes. I agree. Like you pointed out, in the oral traditions, there is a Yeshua or not Yeshua, but Messiah being Joseph and Messiah being David. One would be like a victorious person. One will suffer, and that suffering will cause the nation to repent, and that's how they will get their salvation. And we actually see this in a chapter of Zechariah, chapter 12, when it says, I'm going to start at verse 8 just for some context. Actually, I'll start at verse 6. It says, in that day I will make the governors of Judah like an earth of fire among wood, and like a torch of fire in a sheath. And they shall devour all the people round about and on the right hand and on the left. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. So we see the governors of Judah, the Messiah can arise because we know even Solomon was called a governor. The Most High even calls himself a governor. So we know this is a ruling person from Judah that could be the victorious person in this specific context of this story. And it says, the Lord shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. And that day the Lord shall defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and that he that is feeble among them that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. So this will go on to what you were saying, this victorious person from the house of David. And it says, and this shall come to pass in the day I will seek to destroy the nations that come against Jerusalem. So we know this is you can go into Gog and Magog and all the nations that eventually attack Jerusalem. Now, I know this specific verse is.
Hold on. So you're waiting. Hold on. Let me make sure I understand you correctly. I'm trying to make sure I understand you correctly. So you're waiting on Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Joseph? Is that your belief?
No.
Or do you believe?
No. What I'm saying.
Another question.
I'm saying.
Do you believe Messiah ben Joseph already came?
No. What I'm saying is, I'm trying to address why people think these things. What verses they're
but you don't
using
think that.
They're both plausible. No, they're both plausible because they both make sense because they both will bring in the redemption. One would be a victorious redemption because, like you said, and a lot of people don't understand this, and some people do. When you read the oral tradition, it's full of arguments. Some which don't even have a verdict. So I'm just addressing what you brought up as this is the argument of why they've seen both sides, and this could happen this way and this can happen that way. I'm just going to the verses in the Tanakh that these are coming from.
That they use. But I'm asking you,
that they use.
Is that
exactly.
your view? When I ask you, is that your view?
Yes, I mean they both can happen, and I'm going to read to you why they both can happen.
No. I'm not asking you can they both happen. I'm asking you, is your view the Messiah ben David and the Messiah ben Joseph view? That's what I'm asking you. Is that your belief?
Well, when you say that,
like I believe that Jesus.
What
I'm saying is I believe Jesus is the Messiah. I believe he's coming back. There's a view that there's a Messiah ben David and a Messiah ben Joseph, and that oral tradition teaches that neither one have shown up yet. That's what the oral tradition teaches.
Neither one have shown up.
Okay,
I agree.
So you're waiting. So you admit. Hold up now, because this is very important. Then you admit and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you are waiting on a suffering Messiah. Yes or no?
It's possible, and I'm going to read you.
No. Anything's possible, Dayvaughn. I'm not arguing against
this. Is
Josh.
This is why it's an argument
against Dayvaughn.
Right.
Listen.
I'm
not arguing against the interpretation. I'm not arguing against that. I'm asking you, like you asked me 2 questions. You asked me 2 questions. Do you believe in Jesus? I say yes. That's one question. But then if you ask me why I believe in Jesus, then I go to the scriptures to to verify why I believe. What I'm doing to you is I believe in Jesus. And you know why I believe he's the Messiah. For the most part, I think you know that. But what I'm saying is this is a breakthrough tonight because you are admitting to the people that you are waiting on somebody to do something that Jesus has already done, that you admitted yourself can lead to redemption, so that when the victorious one comes, then they'll be ready. That's exactly what the New Testament teaches about Jesus.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You didn't say that. You
interrupted me.
No.
If you let me finish, if you let me finish reading what I was reading, I was going. Josh, I'm not interrupting you, bro. Let me finish what I'm saying.
That's not my point.
Did
you not say earlier? I don't care about the scripture, dude. I'm just about what you said. Did you not say earlier that Messiah ben Joseph, his death would lead to the repentance of Israel? Did you say that? Did you say that? Yes or no?
But there's a certain way. Yes, that's what I said. But I'm going to tell you why.
That's cool. Right. Okay.
Right.
I don't care about the why. I just want to know the belief.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
What I'm saying. I'm here because you brought it up, and I'm addressing it.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
I don't need. Listen. I'm not doubting. Let me finish. I'm not doubting your explanation. I'm gonna let you explain why you believe that. I'm not even dealing with your belief yet. The proof of it. Your proof. I'm not dealing with that yet. That's where you're getting ahead of yourself. What I'm saying is the first thing you have to do is state your belief. That's what we get out on the table. The thing that needs to be stated so everybody can hear is that Dayvaughn Mays is waiting on a suffering Messiah. That's the first thing. I'm going to give you time to break it down. I want to hear it. That's the first thing. The second thing that needs to be established is Dayvaughn Mays is waiting on a victorious Messiah. Again, I know you can break that one down real easy. I don't even need you to do that one for me, right? All I'm saying is, at the end of the day, you are waiting on somebody to suffer, and the New Testament tells you Jesus already did that. And then you also said that this would lead to the repentance of Israel, which is exactly what the New Testament teaches about Jesus. Repent in the name of Jesus. So
Okay,
you have
so
the same theology we have. You just split the Messiah into two personalities. Right?
Okay, so can I finish
right?
what I was saying now?
I'm just saying, yeah, you can finish, but I'm just saying yes or no. Before you finish, same theology, just two personalities to the Messiah. Yes or no?
No, because the theology behind yours is somebody dying, being worshipped as a Messiah, and believing in him that he is the Messiah, and drinking his blood and like following after him and doing all these things. That's how you get to be redeemed in the New Testament.
That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. That's not what I meant, Dayvaughn. That's not what I meant.
Well, let me finish what I'm saying
first. When I say theology.
Okay, well let me
but
finish
that's not what
I'm
I meant.
saying, Josh, because you jumped in the middle. You said a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to touch on everything you said, and you won't let me finish. So let me finish what I'm trying to say here. So I was talking about you brought up the victorious Messiah, and you brought up the suffering Messiah, whose death would lead to Israel repenting, but your suffering Messiah was killed by his enemies, and the same thing is going to happen with the suffering Messiah as far as how the rabbis look at it. But everything else that surrounds this Messiah is not in the theology that I'm talking about, because in your version of it, you have to be baptized in his name, because it says if you're not baptized in his name, in Mark 16, you like condemned or go to hell or something. It says that you basically got to have holidays and eat bread in his name and do all these things in his name. That's part of the redemption in the New Testament's version of the suffering servant. What I'm reading in Zechariah is not that type of redemption based on his death. And I'm going to read it. I read chapter 10. I'm in Zechariah chapter 12. And I'm in verse, I read verse 10. I was in verse, let me start over because I don't even remember where I was at. I think I started at verse 6. In that day, I will make the governors of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood and like a torch of fire in the sheath, and they shall devour all the people round about on the right hand and the left. And Jerusalem shall be inhabited again in her own place, even in Jerusalem. So based on this verse right here, this will be a victorious person from the line of Judah, which we could say the Messiah can come from here. Excuse me. This is the source you can use for the victorious person from Judah. The Lord shall also save the tents of Judah. First, I'm in verse 7, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day, the Lord shall defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem, he that is feeble among them, and that day shall be as David, and the house of David shall be as God, as the angel of the Lord before them. So again, we see the house of David, which would bring the Messiah from the line of Judah, being the victorious Messiah. And it shall come to pass in that day, I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and supplication, and they shall look upon me whom they pierced, and they shall mourn for him as one mourneth for his only son, and shall be in bitterness for him as one who is in bitterness for his firstborn. This is where the suffering servant will come into play, because it says in that day, talking about this person being mourned for, there shall be a great mourning in Jerusalem as the mourning of Hadad Drimon in the valley of Megiddo. Now, the valley of Megiddo is where they used to fight battles. And one of the kings, I forget the name of the king, I want to say it was Josiah or somebody, died in that battle, and the people mourned. This mourning is what's going to bring about the repentance of Israel, which would actually tie into Isaiah 59 and 20 when it says the Redeemer will come to those who repent. So by them mourning for this person who's fighting a battle, not just, out preaching, but he's actually, there's a war going on. If you read the whole context of Zechariah 12 through 14, there's a war. It talks about horses and battles and cleaning up the war and all these things and all the nations that come against Jerusalem. It's a war scene. In that day, there should be a great mourning in Jerusalem as the mourner of Hadad Dramon in the valley of Megiddo. And the land shall mourn every family apart, the family of the house of David apart, and their wives apart, and the house of Nathan apart, and their wives apart, and the family of the house of Levi apart, and their wives apart, the family of Shemaiah apart, and their wives apart, and all the families that remain, every family apart, and their wives apart. So this will be dealing with the dual Messiah thing, and this is one of the sources. I'm sure there's other places that they probably go through in the scriptures because there's prophecies concerning Joseph and how Joseph was actually supposed to be Manasseh, and Joseph get prophecies talking about being leaders in Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn because they was a leader of the northern tribe, and there's all types of things about Joseph having a prominent position in the kingdom based on the blessings that was given to Joseph in Deuteronomy and in Genesis. So that's one area of a suffering Messiah and a Messiah that will be victorious in battle. Dealing with
but it
donkey.
It doesn't make any distinction right here though, Dayvaughn.
It doesn't.
That's a question.
What I'm saying is,
gotta get to the call at some point, y'all.
Right. Let me just finish this. I got one more thing to deal with, just real quick, and it's talking about you brought up the donkey. Kings riding on donkeys was something that was kind of, I don't want to say it was common, but when Solomon was anointed, this is 1 Kings 33, David says, "Take with you the servants of the Lord and call Solomon my son to ride upon mine own mule and bring him down to Gihon." So this was something that the kings of David, or the sons of David, did as almost like a coronation or something when they were to be king. And my last point I want to make is in Zechariah 9, it says, "Rejoice, O daughter of Zion, shout, O daughter of Jerusalem. Behold, thy king cometh unto thee, he who is just and having salvation, lowly riding upon an ass and upon the colt of the foal of an ass. And I will cut off the chariot of Ephraim and the horse from Jerusalem, and the battle bow shall be cut off, and he shall speak peace unto the heathen, and his dominion shall be from sea to sea, and from the river unto the ends of the earth." So yes, Jesus rode on a donkey, but the rest of these things in context did not take place. Go to the next caller, Sal.
Well, see, okay. Let me just address a few things, and I'll let you go to the next caller, Sal. That's okay, right?
Yeah, that's your call.
I'm still okay. I'll be quick about it. Number one, Zechariah 12 did not make a distinction between no individual. That's what you're reading into the text, like two different messiahs. Second of all, in the order that is written, the ruling, the victory happens first, and then the suffering. When the doctrine of the Messiah ben David and Messiah ben Joseph teaches that the suffering happens first and then the victory. So you're reversing that, even though in Zechariah it doesn't read like that. It reads victorious first. Second of all, it don't say nothing about no repentance or anything happening here leading to repentance. Third of all,
I referenced Isaiah 59 for that. When it says the Redeemer will come to those who repent.
That's cool, but
talking about
again,
that. And I wasn't talking about the order of events.
But wait a minute.
I was just addressing where these arguments can come from. That's what I was doing.
Wait a minute. I know. I heard you. I heard everything you said. But what I'm saying is those arguments from the verses you're going to in of themselves are unfounded. They're unfounded. You can pull out scripture for anything, but if the scripture itself don't say that, that makes it an unfounded argument. Then you can go cross-reference with something else, but anybody can cross-reference something. We want to know if they actually do go together. Back to Zechariah chapter 9, when it said your king cometh lowly riding the donkey, if you're talking about Solomon is long dead by this time.
No, I'm not. I didn't say.
I know you didn't say that. I know you didn't say this was I know they
rode on donkeys.
You said the coronation
so it wasn't
of kings,
isolated
they
to Solomon or Jesus.
Listen to me.
That's my point. So I wasn't trying to say what you're saying.
Dayvaughn, I heard you. Let me repeat it to make sure that you know that I heard you. You said the coronation of kings is when they rode on the donkey. I said if you're talking about Solomon, this can't be Solomon. You didn't say it was. I'm just saying it can't be Solomon.
It's not. It's
not. I know,
Solomon,
because Solomon was long dead. Whoever is, and at this time in Zechariah's history, Israel had already lost their last king. They had already lost their last king, Zedekiah. So whatever king they're waiting on is a king that's going to come lowly riding on a donkey. My whole point to you is, if whoever you say this is still somebody you're waiting to do this. Jesus actually already did this. Jesus already did this. What I'm saying is, whatever you...
But he didn't do verse 10.
Argument.
He did verse 9.
Exactly.
Right? No,
exactly. But the Messiah...
and having dominion from sea to sea is two different things.
Okay,
come on, bro.
Right.
You interrupted me a few times.
You're right. Okay. But what I'm saying is, whatever you're reading right here, this is the whole sum of the matter. We got a Messiah that did 50%. You got a Messiah that did 0. So which Messiah is really the most discredible? A Messiah that ain't done jack, or a Messiah that's done something? Let's keep it real. Let's keep it a buck. Who got more credibility? Let's keep it real. If I work for you, Dayvaughn, and you got another dude work for you, right? If I show up to work half of the time and your other employee don't show up at all, which employee is more credible in your eyes?
Well,
which
based
one? Just
on
keep
what
it
you're
real.
saying, hold on. Based on what you're saying, if you're applying verse 9 to Jesus, it says, "In having salvation." Well, Israel didn't get salvation.
That's not my question.
Jesus
That's
said,
not my
hold
question,
on.
I asked you a question about employees. I asked you a question about employees,
you talking about credibility.
No, I asked you credibility.
And you went to
Answer that
Zechariah
question.
chapter 9.
Which one is more credible?
You
the employee that shows up 50% of the time, or the one that don't show up at all?
He rode on a donkey, but he didn't bring no salvation.
That's 50%.
He
that's
said
50%.
he was going to bring.
That's 50%.
He said he was going to do that. So you picking and choosing though.
No, I'm not picking and choosing. I said 50%.
Okay, but he didn't.
You know what
50%
means?
He did, but he didn't do this.
I know 50%. Did he ride on the donkey?
Okay, ride on the donkey. Who can't ride on the donkey?
Okay,
though?
I'm saying that's the prophecy. Okay, no, I'm not saying that's so
but
big.
It says,
this is
a
prophecy.
He wasn't the king. It says thy king
Listen,
come. Jesus wasn't no king riding on a donkey.
Now look what
when
they
came to make him
you
the king, he ran in John 6:15.
Dayvaughn,
did he not?
You understand what I'm asking you. Now you're being petty because you understand exactly
no, I'm not
what
being
saying.
petty.
I'm asking you.
I'm asking you a question.
Okay. No, I'm asking
you went
you
to this verse.
This is my question. I'm gonna ask the question again. I'm asking you, which if you had two people that work for you, and one of them showed up half of the time for work, and the other one did not show up at all, which of those workers are more credible in your eyes? That's all I want you to tell me. Which one is more credible?
Of course. If you're talking about workers, but we're talking about something bigger than workers
here. This is an analogy. It's an analogy, bro.
No,
it's just an analogy.
It's an analogy.
It's just an analogy.
But what it is an analogy.
So in this analogy,
but what I'm saying
in this hypothetical,
if you're going to go to
you don't want to
verses
answer the
prove
question.
something,
Come on, Dayvaughn.
I
Ask
did
me the same question. Ask me the same question.
Ask me the same question. You're going to go with the one who showed up. You're going to go with the one who showed up.
Exactly.
But the verse you went to, the verse you went to,
that
has
nothing to do with what I'm
with
talking
Jesus
about.
because he wasn't a king and he didn't bring salvation. Riding on the
is
donkey
not
sufficient
you can't say nothing.
to say, well,
you can't say nothing. You can't say nothing.
He didn't. Okay, but he didn't. Wasn't a king and he didn't have salvation. Riding on
it's
the
two
donkey.
That's the other part.
How many people rode on donkeys back in the day?
How many people were crucified and were innocent?
And you're talking about
how many people
doing things in order?
How many people for the
you brought up doing things
Come
in
on,
order.
Dayvaughn.
It says, "Thy king cometh, having salvation and riding on a donkey." So first he got to be the king and bring salvation, then ride the donkey.
He was legally the king. He was legally the king.
He didn't bring.
He was legally the king. He was legally the king.
Jesus was the king.
He was legally the king. Legally, yes. You know what legal means? That means
if
you
he was legally the king,
you have a legal right to
make him the king. And John 6:15. How come he ran?
Legally. You know what legally means? You know what legally means? You ever seen the Lion King?
How was he legally the king?
So
you're saying he was the only
son of
Lion
King when Mufasa died?
The only son
you remember the Lion King when Mufasa died? Listen, you remember in the Lion King when Mufasa died, right? Who was the rightful king? Simba. But who was ruling as king? Scar. Legally. Simba was the king. Legally, Jesus was the king. Which, by the way, if you get understand, that's what the Lion King is slightly modeled after. The story of Jesus.
Well, the problem with that is you would have to say that there was nobody else from the house of David, because if you're going to say that, how come Joseph wasn't the one in line? Because he was
the one in line.
Joseph wasn't legally the king.
He was. Who said he wasn't?
I never said he wasn't. If he was, then how come he's not the one?
So when Jesus grew up, because I'm talking about descendancy. Like you got David, then you got David's sons, and so on and so forth.
Joseph was from the house of David, right?
Yes, let me finish. Let me finish. Legally,
and his father,
he could have been. He could have. Yes,
again,
he had rights to the throne.
Can't just say it was Jesus.
Listen, I'm not denying that. I'm not. No, but Joseph did not fulfill any messianic prophecies. Jesus
and Jesus wasn't the king, and he didn't have salvation.
Legally. Listen to me.
Then why, when they came to make him king, he didn't want it?
Let me finish. Legally, because it was not his time to do it yet.
So he wasn't the king then.
It was not
That's my point.
No, legally. Listen, Dayvaughn.
Okay,
let me explain something to you. Let me explain something to you. If you're going to let me explain, or you're going to keep cutting me off after you ask the question. You asked the question. You said, why did Jesus not allow them to make him king? You don't even understand that there's a question within that question. The question is, why would they try to make him king anyway if he didn't even have legal rights to the throne to begin with? That's the question you're overlooking. They knew
I'm
legally
not overlooking that.
he had rights to the throne. Okay, so legally they knew legally he had rights to the throne. Just because you turn something down does not mean that legally it's not your birthright. Look what Esau did. Esau sold his birthright. But legally, he had rights to the birthright. You can turn something down. That don't mean that legally you don't have a right to it. That's what Jesus did.
But you can't call him the king, especially if you turn it down. Then you're not the king.
No. He is the king. No, he is the king. He just didn't want to reign then. There's a difference. Because if you get into the theology of Jesus being eternal, that's the reason why he's able to do that. If you tried to do something like that, you could never reclaim your throne because you would be dead, and that would just be the end of you. But Jesus resurrected. We're talking about eternity right here. He didn't want to accept
based on the verse you went to, it says, "A king come to thee having salvation."
Yes.
He didn't bring salvation. Everybody got killed.
Jesus did bring salvation. The New Testament teaches a salvation of the soul, and you know that. You're making salvation mean what you want to mean when you want it to mean that. When you know the New Testament, when you know the New Testament.
One more minute, fellas. One more minute.
Hold on. Dayvaughn.
That definition is not in Zechariah.
Let's all go to the caller, Dayvaun.
Gotta go to the callers, fellas. Let's go to the callers, y'all. Let's go to the callers. Again, I appreciate, though, the information being put out there, you know what I mean? So once again, the number is 319-527-6239. I know a lot of people have been waiting patiently. Let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to 773 your live. 773 your live. Okay.
What's up? Peace, Al. Peace, Josh. Peace, Dayvaughn. It's Bleedo.
Shalom.
The shoemaker.
This was a good conversation, man. I kind of want to switch the tone just a little bit. I want to ask both of y'all. I'll start with Josh if I can. and I think this is where I think a lot of disconnect come from the non-Messianics. As me and Chris Harris used to talk all the time, and you know when we used to talk, a lot of things. I think the biggest problem is the futurist perspective. Excuse me, I'm out of breath. I was just working out, but the futurist perspective. Like when I heard Dayvaughn say that both of y'all is kind of like waiting. So my question to Josh, I know you teach Matthew 24 is completely fulfilled. So my question to you is with Matthew 24, I believe verse 35 off the top of my head. Let me pull my Bible out real quick. It says that heaven and earth will pass, but my word will not pass. Do you believe that Jesus taught that, or that in Matthew 24, which is basically his prophecy, that heaven and earth passed away, and what's that symbolic for? Did that have a symbolic meaning, or was he literally saying in Matthew 24:35 that heaven and earth will pass away?
No, heaven and earth did not literally pass away. There will be a time when heaven and earth does pass away, but that's getting off into something else. In the Old Testament and the New Testament, writers of these books use the heavens and the earth and the elements to represent something that's permanent. Like, I think in Jeremiah, he said, he spoke of the sun, the moon, and the stars. He said, if these things cease to be before me, then Israel will cease to be a people to me, right? So they use the elements to represent something permanent, and then they would compare something they were saying or something that God said he would do to how permanent the elements are. So that's why in this verse, Jesus said, heaven and earth will pass away, but my word will not pass away. And then in another verse, he said, until heaven and earth pass, wording it differently, not one jot or tittle shall pass from the law to all be fulfilled. This is just Bible terminology or Hebrew terminology, just using something that represents something permanent, and they're comparing what they're saying to that. That'll be like me saying, as long as the sun shines, my words are going to be in effect.
Okay, so in the Matthew 5, what you quoted, it says until heaven and earth pass, not a jot shall pass until all be fulfilled, right? But when you look at verse 34 in that same Matthew 24, it says this generation shall not pass, kind of using the same terminology, till all these things be fulfilled. And we know that all the things that he was referencing was, the basically what many teach as the second coming in Matthew 24. I believe Dayvaughn Mays will probably look at Matthew 24 as the chapter that's like the futurist chapter of the second coming. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dayvaughn. Matthew 24, from your understanding, is that a chapter that you view as a chapter that the Christians use for the second coming?
I would say yes, and I would say no, because as far as from a Christian perspective, the preterists that teach all these things have already happened. I mean, I don't know if y'all familiar with. I want to say Josh and William Bell had a debate about this, or a discussion or something.
We had a debate.
Right.
Yeah,
so
they did.
Dealing with preterism, there's preterists that have been teaching everything has been. There's even Tanakh only cats that teach that everything in the Tanakh has already been fulfilled. So, dealing with that, there's a Tanakh only preterist. Yeah, there's a few out there. So yeah,
wow.
As a matter of fact, there was on Sal show. Mary Yale debated somebody on Debate Talk for You about this. I forget who he debated.
I think that was the dude Israel. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
So
I think Evan Israel.
So that went down too. So yeah, I mean, from both perspectives, some people teach that. So dealing with Matthew 24. Now again, and just for the record, because I know Josh is going to talk about time frames, but based on what it says, if you're taking his words at face value, in Matthew 24:14, it says, "And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, then the end shall come," right? So if we go to Paul in Colossians 1:23, Paul says, if you continue grounded and settled in the faith and not be moved away from the hope of the gospel, which you have heard was preached to every creature under heaven, of which I, Paul, am made a minister, you would have to say, well, how come the end didn't come? As Jesus said, when Paul just said, this has. No,
the
I was
end
going to
did
go
come.
there, Josh.
I teach that.
I was going to
I
go
preach
there.
that.
Hold on. I was going to go there because we see in the Tanakh, hold on, just to be fair, I got to be fair. In the Tanakh, we see your end has come, O Israel. And it was talking about when they got kicked out of their land. So,
yeah, that's like this was talking about when Israel got kicked out their land.
Right, it got kicked, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying to be fair. You know what I'm saying? Because it says the end. So you can look at that, but some people were looking at the end as. I
don't want to cut you. I don't want to cut you short, but okay. So
but
the end.
But look that up in the Greek.
From both of y'all perspectives.
It says world, which means age.
Right.
If you look up in Matthew 24, end of the world, end of the age, the age of Israel.
Right.
Not the end of the world.
It uses age in the New Testament. It uses I will be into you until the ages. It doesn't really say
exactly
the language that we use.
Not cosmos.
End.
That would be the Greek word meaning world.
The end of the world.
Cosmos. It says aeon, which means age, like a specific time period for an individual or a group of people.
Yeah,
you can be heard.
Okay, cool. So what I want to say is, so look, so just hear my point when I kind of how I'm trying to wrap this up. So Josh, from your understanding, as far as like I don't like to use words like futurist, but from your understanding of how you view the Messiah or how you view the end times in a sense, there's going to be a restoration of mankind. Would you say, is that something that you believe, or am I stretching that?
When you say the restoration of mankind, you mean in what sense? Like a literal appearing of Jesus? That's what you're asking me?
Like
to restore
like
mankind?
The sum, so like what's the sum of the Bible to you? What like we sum the whole Bible up? How would
the
you
Psalm
sum
of the
it up?
Bible is okay. I've never been asked that question before, but it's a good question. The Psalm of the Bible is for us to get salvation, and you to follow the law and the testimony of Jesus Christ until you die or until He comes back, whichever comes first. When He comes back, He's going to sit on the throne of David, literally a literal throne in literal Jerusalem over in literal land, and rule from that throne and fulfill the rest of the messianic prophecies that pertain to Him ruling. That is the Psalm of everything. And that's just the beginning of the Psalm of everything.
And then just one last question, and I'm gonna say peace to both of y'all. Dayvaughn, how would you sum up? I know you don't really deal with the New Testament, but how would you sum up just the Tanakh? What is the end of everything? How would you sum it up?
I would sum it up in Ezekiel 37 when it says He's going to bring the nation back together. He's going to have somebody sit on the throne of David. He's going to be he's going to be amongst them in their sanctuary forever. And in Zechariah 14, after all the nations have attacked Israel, everybody's going to go up to Jerusalem. We can go to Isaiah 2. All nations will flow to Israel to learn the Torah. The law should go out from Zion. And basically, the world will be corrected when everybody goes to learn Torah.
Okay, so the only differences that you guys basically have is just that one believes that the suffering servant, basically is the words that I heard you using, has came already, but there's 50% of the prophecy, or more than 50% of the prophecy was fulfilled. There's just some that hasn't been fulfilled.
I was just being, thank you, Bleedo. Thank you for bringing that out. That more than 50%. I was just being generous with that.
My bad.
With that number.
Yeah, that's why.
Appreciate that.
So
appreciate that.
Yeah. So basically, it's like just that part of the suffering servant in the sense that came and fulfilled like partial of the prophecies. So both of y'all kind of agree, just basically that the disagreement comes on that part, basically, to sum it all up. Because the conclusion, both of y'all are saying the same thing. It's just only on that part when it comes to Jesus in the sense of fulfilling some of those prophecies.
At the end of the day, I'm gonna paint a broad brush here because I know we can go a lot of places. At the end of the day, the really only division between the Tanakh and the New Testament is really just Jesus. If we just deal with if we strip everything and go down to the laws of what you got to do every day to be a person on earth, we're going to agree you got to keep the commandments. You got to love your brother. You got to give charity. You got to be helpful. You got to love your wife. All the things that normal people do to have a happy life. The belief in Jesus is what separates us. And I'm going to be fair, because I know there's a lot of Messianics or New Testament people that don't pray to Jesus. They don't think He's God. They just think He was a prophet that had the Holy Spirit. So I don't want to paint the broad brush and say everybody is in that category of thinking Jesus is God and all these things, because I know there's many different denominations. So even the ones that think we need the New Testament don't view Jesus as all other Christians. They view Jesus as, even as the Muslims do, just another prophet. You know what I'm saying? So, but it still comes down to Him as the dividing line. But there's different types of dividing lines, if that's fair. You know what I'm saying?
There's dividing lines within dividing lines.
Right. And it can go deeper and deeper, but overall, it's the person of Jesus Himself, not necessarily the overall message of the gospel. Repent, you know what I'm saying, and be a good person and love their neighbor and the sum of the law and all these things. Nobody disagrees with that. What must I do to inherit eternal life? Keep the commandments. And Jesus said, follow after me. What was He doing? According to the text, He's doing miracles and He's healing people and feeding crowds of people. Nobody would disagree with somebody trying to help the community in that sense. It's just going into the deifying of Him and making Him somebody you have to pray to, or be baptized in His name and these things like that.
Okay, I appreciate that. So it ain't. So He really ain't the issue. The Jesus ain't really the issue as far as what He did, how He walked, talked, things of that nature. It's just the deifying of Jesus in a sense. It's really what you would have a problem with, right? Because what he taught and
that's
what
not the issue, Bleedo. That's not what He said, Bleedo. The issue, He said, the person, meaning regardless of you believing He's a deity, He's just a man. He said the dividing line between the Tanakh onlys and the Messianics or the New Testament believers is Jesus, regardless of what you think of him. Is Jesus. They don't accept Jesus in any shape, form, or fashion, whether just as a simple healer, just as a prophet, a deity. That's the dividing line, period. They don't get off into the theology, the different theologies of Jesus. Those are some ordering points they have for rejecting him. But even if it wasn't for that, the main reason that they have a problem with Jesus, as Dayvaughn has been reiterating all night long, is that he didn't do certain things that the prophecy said the Messiah would do. That's his main issue.
Okay,
well, dealing with him as a Messiah, just to be clear, dealing with Jesus as a Messiah and just as a prophet, I think personally will be two different things. Because let's say, and I'm just for argument's sake, Jesus came and never ever mentioned I'm the son of David. He just came, did some miracles, said these people are going to kill me because I'm trying to do the right thing. I don't think the Tanakh only would have such a problem with him. It's what was said that he said you must do to get eternal life. Coming and doing miracles and feeding the people. Elijah did miracles and fed the people. Elijah threw stuff in the water and it came up. You know what I mean? Elijah resurrected the dead. Elijah went to heaven. We don't have a problem with the miracles. For instance, there's people who teach Jesus never existed. I'm not one of those people. It doesn't matter to me if he existed or not, if he did the miracles, if he was born, all these different things. It's when it gets into the deifying of him, telling you what you must do for eternal life, that would have conflict with some of the stuff in the Tanakh. For instance, in Matthew chapter 6, the model prayer, he said, this is how you should pray. And in that model prayer, it mentions forgiveness and praying to God only. Jesus is not in the model prayer. He himself is not injected in there. He says, thou Father which art in heaven. So if you're standing there with him, you know he's not talking of himself. Now, I know there's later teachings that go into that he's addressed as God, but I'm talking about real time. The people who were standing there, if you were standing around listening to him say that, it wouldn't sound like he was speaking of himself. It just says, this is how you pray. Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, will be done. You know, forgive us our sins, forgive us our debts, all these things. That's something somebody in the Tanakh only community cannot argue with, because that's what we already do. And it doesn't include the deification or the worshiping in Jesus, but it does include forgiveness and being a good person overall, forgiving your people's debts and all these things. Like the Tanakh says, every 7 years you got to forgive debts and jubilees and all that. So all that is already tied into Tanakh law. So the model prayer in Matthew 6, 9 through 15, whatever verses those are, we don't have a problem with that specific teaching, because it doesn't include the teaching of Jesus being God or being baptized or none of those things. And on the last point, dealing with that, when the guy asked him, what must I do to eternal life? He said, are you keeping the commandments? He said, okay, then you'll live. He didn't tell him you got to be baptized and all this stuff. I'm talking about Luke 10:25. Now, I know in other places, dealing with the narrative, there's other stuff mentioned, but in real time, if you're standing there listening to this man talk and you never saw him again and you took away the eternal life speech, oh, keep the commandments and I should be good. You know what I'm saying? Because I never, as far as when he says, do one more thing, follow me, as far as I know, I never met nobody, and I'm not saying that nobody's ever not done this, but nobody's ever sold all their stuff, left their wife, forsook everything, and just started going out preaching and doing miracles and feeding people. No, they keep everything that they have, and they help the poor. They help people. They do charity, and they can still keep the commandments. So I think the gospel, depending on where you're reading in the gospel, the message would change. And since they didn't have a book, you know what I'm saying, to go back to reference all that stuff. If you was with him at a certain point in time, you got whatever teaching that was in that specific real time. And then when the books were written that compiled all this stuff, most of the people had already died. There was war, there was fleeing, there was refugees and all type of stuff. So Matthew 6, for me personally, and I know a lot of other Tanakh onlys feel this way, we don't have a problem with Matthew 6. And that's coming out of the mouth of Jesus, although I can reference everything he's saying in the Tanakh. But that specific teaching, I don't have a problem with that.
All right, people, we got like 15 minutes on the air, y'all, before we go into the overtime part of the show. I know, guys. I know. 1 2 number 319-527-6239. I appreciate everybody that's been standing by patiently waiting to ask their questions. And I'm getting a lot of texts right now and messages on social media. People enjoying this hot seat. Let's go to the next person, though. And let's go to 813 Live.
Hey, what's up, Sal? What's up, Josh? What's up, Dayvaughn? How's everybody doing tonight?
They're doing pretty good.
All right. Dayvaughn, I just got a question for you. Because sometimes I hear you go into the New Testament, and I used to do this too. Now, I may not believe things like that, but I do understand them. And all throughout Israel's history, they have had a redeemer or a spokesperson for them. And I'd like to ask you, when we see Moses, he served as their spokesperson. Elijah serves as their spokesperson. Even Daniel serves as their spokesperson to redeem Israel back to their creator. So I wanted to ask you, when the apostles were teaching that Jesus would be the new high priest that would in fact redeem Israel, and you guys don't want him to be the high priest as an Old Testament only, because there's a strength in the Old Testament doctrine as well as there is a weakness in it. And I'm just addressing the weakness. Throughout Israel's history, they have always had a redeemer or someone to represent them with their deity or their God. Who would be your representative today?
Today, alive in the flesh or just in writings?
Alive today.
In the flesh? I mean, to be honest, you would basically just have to rely on the elders. If you're talking about real living people and not ancient writings, you would have to rely on the knowledge you would get from the elders who have been studying these things for years and years. For instance, Zion Lex.
Hold on. I don't want to talk about Zion Lex. I want to stay in the book.
No, but hold on. I'm trying to make a point. He referenced that a lot of people today are and I have to agree with this. A lot of people are YouTube scholars, to where they don't go to people who actually been studying the book and living the life. They just Google stuff and go on YouTube. But we have today people for ever since, and I'm just speaking about America, but I can't speak on other nation. In America, we have people who can trace their lineages back to at least the early 1900s, of people who actually been studying the Torah, been studying the language, actually observing the law. You know what I'm saying?
That's fine, Dayvaughn. That's fine. But what I'm saying is, hold on, just let me get this off real quick. No, Dayvaun, just listen. You're getting a little over anxious. What Josh is saying, you're talking about people that aren't even chosen. What the New Testament guys are saying, watch this. Jesus is alive and he sits on the right hand of the Father according to the biblical narrative. And he serves as the high priest that makes intercession for you all, as Daniel, as Moses, as Solomon, as every other king. Now, if Israel was to go into suspension away from their land or whatever, in fact, that would make sense, because watch this. I'm going to ask you just 3 questions. Did Elijah ascend into heaven?
That's what it says.
Did Elijah battle with the priests, the Baal priests of that day?
Yeah.
Did Elijah raise a dead girl from the dead?
Yeah.
Did Jesus ascend into heaven?
According to the text, yeah.
Did Jesus battle with the priests of his day?
He argued with them, but he didn't have nobody put to death. So, yeah, he argued with the priests.
Okay. Same thing. He battled with them, right?
That's different.
He battled with them verbally, right? Dayvaughn, just answer this.
But
okay, he argued with them verbally.
You say battle. When you say battle,
Elijah battle is the same thing, Dayvaughn. It's just the way he did it. Now hold on.
I think he's asking, was there contention between the priest in Elijah's day and contention between the priest and Jesus' day?
Yeah.
Thank you, Josh.
Okay. Don't make it too hard, man.
Okay.
Don't make it too hard, man.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Now I want you to notice something, Dayvaughn. What Josh is saying here is they have someone to do intercess for them. You don't have a problem When Elijah does it, according to the biblical narrative, because you believe in the text, but when you see it in the New Testament, you don't want to believe it. Wait, I'm not done because I'm going to draw my conclusion. I'm going to show you something. All throughout the history of these people, according to the biblical narrative, their God has performed miracles for them, some that are hard to explain, such as talking donkeys, men sleeping in wells, etc., etc. But now, when you get something as pure and holy as a virgin-born son, according to the text, who's here for a special reason, according to the text, you guys get all up in arms about it. Who's to say that God can't perform a miracle and something greater for you today, as the book of Hebrews states, and says he can't make that happen? Because he didn't give no prophecy about Moses coming. He didn't give a prophecy about Isaiah coming. And Jesus never took these on for himself. He said right here in the text to the priest, why do y'all hate me? Every work that he said he did in the name of his Father. So why is it a problem here in the New Testament text, but not a problem there when Elijah spilled blood violently, albeit according to their law, but Jesus does it peacefully, and his blood is spilled according to the biblical narrative for you, which is a free gift and a free miracle. You said you didn't have no problems with Elijah did it, but maybe what Paul is saying is true. Maybe certain things in the Old Testament were foreshadows for Jesus to come and for you to have to understand and accept that. Just disrespecting him all the time, I think it's getting played out, bro. Now, I know I may not believe in the biblical text, but I can honestly sit here and say Jesus is the best damn thing in the book. He did nothing wrong. And let me explain this to you again. Stay out of Paul's letters, because Paul taught the law. And I would love to talk to you about that one day. But, man, Josh got you right now, because you just admitted, brother, that you are waiting for this. And he got you on that. And I only want to say this, because I wanted to bring some balance to this conversation, because I remember when me and Anonymous and BA, we talked, they said, Chris, it's not fair. Why can't they hold on to him as their intercessor? You needed one with Solomon. You needed one with Moses. You needed one with Elijah. You needed one with Daniel. You needed one with Isaiah, Jeremiah. They were all chosen. But the New Testament Messiah can't be chosen when you know all of Israel, according to Leviticus 26 and 55, are the God of Israel's chosen Messiahs. Come on, man. Let's be fair here and let's be honest, and let's put the balance in the scales. They weren't following him for nothing, and if they were following him because of his miracles and wonders that he did, they all knew he did it only by the will of their Creator. That's all I want to say, dog. Come on, man. Come on, let's toughen up a little bit here, man. This ain't nothing to argue about. This is a narrative, and there's nothing wrong with it, according to the Old Testament text. You believe it here, but you don't want to believe it here. So you're really saying you don't believe in the God of Israel and his miracles that he can perform for you. According to the biblical narratives, that's blasphemy, bro, especially if you believe in the text. That's all I want to say, man. Thank you, Sal. Thank you, Josh, and thank you, Dayvaughn.
Okay. Can I be heard?
You go with Small. Yeah, got it.
Okay. Well, you said a whole bunch. Now, if we want to deal with Elijah versus Jesus, again, if we're talking about Jesus being a prophet or Jesus being a Messiah or Jesus being God, three different things. Elijah never told nobody he was God. Elijah never said get baptized in his name. Elijah never told nobody through him you have eternal life. So that right there is something that you can't compare Jesus to Elijah with. The experience under Elijah was not with the same experience they had under Jesus. When Jesus came, they were under Roman oppression. When he left, they were under Roman oppression. When Elijah was alive, they was killing the prophets, same situation. Jezebel's killing the prophets, but Elijah came and actually put a stop to that particular situation when he killed all the prophets of Baal. Let me rephrase that. He didn't stop the killing of the prophets, but he had the prophets that were teaching in Israel, those specific ones teaching that idolatry, he had them killed. Elijah did go to heaven, and it says in the text Jesus goes to heaven. Again, the miracles, I said I don't have a problem with miracles. It's the deifying of Jesus. Prophets did miracles throughout the text. Moses did miracles. Aaron did miracles, or Moses and Aaron were part of the miracles, throwing their staffs down and turning them into serpents and stuff. It's the deifying of Jesus. Elijah never told anybody, you got to come through me to get to the Father. So the comparison, I think, is not there. Because Elijah said to come back, Jesus has said to come back, right? So, I mean, all these things you can say was a foreshadow. But when you're talking about the experience of Jesus, what did he actually say he was going to do and what happened on the ground? He told the disciples to go get a sword. Now, if you want to compare him to Elijah, if you tell somebody to go get a sword, that means you're ready to put in some work. When they got the sword and used it, he told them don't use it. He said, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Then why'd you tell them to go get a sword? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, that's a misunderstanding of a text that you have, know.
Okay, but what
I can expound on that, but that's not what that meant.
What I'm saying is this. If you're under oppression and the person you think is supposed to bring you out of this oppression as a Messiah tell you to get a sword, in the mind of Israel, in their history, they were used to physical battles with their enemies. We can go back to Gideon. We can go back to Samson. We can go back to Joshua. Everybody fighting the literal physical enemies of Israel. Even dealing with the priest, that was a physical battle, or not even a battle. The people just gathered them up and killed them. When one of the kings faked like he was going to worship Baal, he got everybody together and he killed them. Those were they weren't necessarily the outside enemies of Israel, but they were more of the internal enemies of Israel. Jesus never got rid of nobody on that type of scale. The Romans actually got rid of him, and I know it's according to prophecy, but we're talking about the reality is his enemies actually killed him. Elijah's enemies didn't kill him. Elijah brought down fire from the sky and had his enemies killed. Excuse me. So, and again, I think, and I don't know where you at. You sound like.
Let me jump in real quick. We got 2 minutes in the air, y'all. We got 2 minutes on the air. We're going into the overtime part of the show. You're going to have to call in and hear the rest of the show, guys. 319-527-6239. Continue. I'm sorry.
I don't know if you're back teaching the New Testament, if you're teaching Paul. I really don't know. It sounds like that's what you was doing, so I'm not sure.
Wait a minute, just, and I'm not trying to defend Chris. I'm just repeating what I heard him say, and I didn't even know that was Chris until like the end. But he said, even though I don't believe the biblical narrative, and you can call back in and clarify.
So he don't. Okay, I'm glad you brought. Okay, yeah, he did say that. Okay,
right.
He did say that.
But yeah,
okay,
he did say that. But what he was pointing out, just so I can interject, what he was pointing out was the inconsistency in. See, this is what I respect about Chris. If he put the whole book down as far as the belief system, I know he did it because he could see the double standard between Tanakh in the Tanakh only view. He can see that. He's told me that before. There's a double standard there that a lot of Tanakh only Hebrews don't want to acknowledge. And this is the reason why, if you notice, Dayvaughn, and you went to this is the reason why the pattern usually is this. New Testament believer, Tanakh only, they're done with the Bible altogether. Why does it always go like that? Very, very rarely do you see in our school of thought where somebody go from New Testament to not believe in the Bible at all. It's always New Testament to not only no Bible at all. And let me tell you why. It's because the people who put the Bible down entirely after becoming Tanakh only do so because they can see the hypocrisy and the double standard in the Tanakh only view. So they are faced with a dilemma of either being a hypocrite or putting the whole book down, because every argument used against Jesus can, not just Jesus, the New Testament can equally be used against the Old. I'll give you a perfect example. Elijah went to heaven. Malachi 4 says Elijah is going to come back. Do you believe that?
Yep.
How long you been waiting?
Since Malachi was written.
How long ago was that? Longer than 2,000 years. But see,
way longer.
Longer than 2,000 years, right? But at the end of the day, you're reading a book. You didn't witness Elijah. You never met the man. You can't tell him from Adam's house cat. You're reading a book and you're forming a belief. And you're saying, well, I'm going to believe that this man ascended to heaven in a chariot, and I'm waiting for him to come back. Then along comes the New Testament. And the first thing out y'all mouth is, y'all been waiting 2,000 years. First thing out y'all mouth. You even said it tonight yourself. You said it a couple of times. What the 2,000 years got to do with it?
The reason is because you're saying he is something that's supposed to be on the ground. Whatever Jesus is supposed to completely fulfill is supposed to be in our reality.
Exactly.
Right?
And don't Elijah supposed to come back on the ground in our reality?
Exactly. But what I'm saying is we're not saying he's something. I'm not saying Elijah is here. I'm not saying Elijah is a king and all the things that y'all prescribe to Jesus.
We're not saying Jesus is here. We said Jesus is here in the spirit.
Again,
we're not saying Jesus
you're
is
not saying that. You're not saying that. But there's Christians who teach all these things. I got pastors in my family.
But you're talking to Brother Josh. You're not talking to all
the audience. I'm talking to the people, the listening audience.
But that's what they. But everybody don't believe that. Just like you mentioned,
I said that earlier. I said that.
At the meat of the situation. At the meat of the situation, are you waiting on Elijah to come back from heaven and physically do something on this earth? Yes or no?
That's what it says. It says.
Okay,
come back in Malachi.
So this is what Chris is talking about. Let me finish.
Right, let me
this is what Chris is. I know what I'm saying, but this is his issue
because he's talking about miracles. Well, I don't have.
We're not talking.
I don't have
miracles.
The miracles.
We're not talking about
my
miracles.
issue.
That's something he
mentioned.
Said
the deification.
I didn't say that was.
That's the problem.
We got that. We got that, but that's not the core. That wasn't his point. Chris said a lot of things, but he said
a lot of stuff.
Yes, but he gave a conclusion of what he was saying. His conclusion was the double standard. He just went into detail, but his conclusion, the double standard is neither one of us has ever witnessed any of the stuff that we are saying we believe in, even though we believe in similar stuff. If you're saying you believe Elijah went to heaven, let me finish. If you believe that you said Elijah went to heaven, something you didn't witness, and you believe he's going to come back and do something physical, something you can't prove or verify, then how is your belief any more credible than a Christian belief in a person who they didn't witness do any of these things, who went to heaven and who's supposed to come back and do physical things? What Chris is saying, that's why he said that's why he said put balance to this discussion. What that means is make it even. It's not even because y'all like to discredit us when y'all share similar beliefs that are equally unbelievable. And it's the same thing.
You said y'all. You can't say y'all because I said earlier.
Well,
I don't discredit none of the miracles.
Okay,
I don't have a problem with miracles.
I ain't say the miracles.
I didn't say miracles.
Yeah,
you said miracles. You did say miracles.
I said the ascension.
Okay, just now. Okay, Elijah went to heaven. Jesus went to heaven. Again, that's not the issue. It's the depending on which book you're reading. Just to be fair, because we know they came out at different times. Everybody didn't have access to the writings. Everybody couldn't read. So dealing with the ascension to heaven, if Jesus went to heaven, okay, and if that's what we read, fine. But it's all the other things that are attached to it. Elijah went to heaven and never said he was to be worshipped, deified. He was never called God. He never told people, if you don't believe in me, you're not going to go to heaven. He never said you go to hell.
But how does that make his ascension into heaven even more believable? But how does that make his ascension?
Again, I don't have a problem with Jesus going into heaven, and that's what I'm trying to tell you.
But how does that make Elijah's ascension even any more believable? Because you don't believe that Jesus went to heaven. Listen, let me finish. You don't believe. You keep bringing up that.
I don't have a problem if that's what happened.
Listen,
I don't have a problem.
Okay, what I'm saying is, okay, why would God? If I'm not saying if you have a problem or not, listen, Dayvaughn, listen. This is the issue here. The reasons you're giving for why Jesus you don't believe Jesus went to heaven. Because if he wasn't the Messiah, then he lied because he said he was. And there's no way God's going to take a liar to heaven. So you don't believe Jesus ascended to heaven. But what you're using to verify or to justify why you believe Elijah went to heaven and why Jesus didn't has nothing to do with the credibility of one over the other. What you're saying is, I believe Elijah went to heaven because he didn't say worship him. He didn't say be baptized in my name, yada, yada, yada. That doesn't make him ascending to heaven more believable or more credible.
But that's
not
what I'm looking at. That's not what I'm looking at.
But that's what you said every time. But that's what you said,
Dayvaughn.
Every time you bring up Elijah ascending to heaven, you bring that out when you compare him to Jesus. That's what you do. You're doing that, and then you're denying it.
No, there's more to it. There's more to it because, like I said, Elijah simply came as a prophet. Had Jesus come as a prophet only and not all these other things, the view on him would be completely different. Just like if you read certain books, they'll mention certain things in other books. Again, if the New Testament would have came and said there was a listen to what I'm trying to say. If a New Testament came and said there was this prophet named Jesus, he did miracles, he healed the people, he ascended to heaven. If that was the narrative, just like
ain't coming back,
dry like a lot. Hold on, ain't coming back. If that's what the message was, I couldn't have a problem with that if I believed the same thing of Elijah, because prophets go through similar things.
You personally,
yes. Enoch,
Dayvaughn Mays personally, yes.
Enoch went into. It says he was taken. Some people say it just means he died. Some people teach Enoch went to heaven. God took him, right? So Elijah wasn't the only one to go to heaven. I'm sure you believe that too, right? Right.
Yes, I believe Enoch ascended to heaven.
So I don't. But again, everything else, just as a prophet, we don't have problems with God taking people to heaven. The miracles. It says in the book of Psalms, "You will guide me and you receive me to glory." That means whoever wrote that song was thinking about when he died, he was going to go to heaven. Receive me to glory, that sounds like being taken to heaven because it's the same language that's used in the New Testament. So we don't have problems with people going to heaven. It's, again, like I said, and I know everybody, it doesn't.
But do you believe Jesus went to heaven? Like Elijah?
Do I believe
That's the question.
Based on everything else,
no,
because no, and I'm gonna tell you,
okay,
no, I don't.
That's my point. That's my point. And the reason, but hold on, let me finish.
Not why.
When Chris called in, what he pointed out, this is what he was pointing out.
But there's a reason for it though. There's a reason.
I know. You always say all night. You don't say because of the stuff he said about himself. He said he was God. He said work. We got that.
Here's the other thing. We got that, dude. A lot of things said about Jesus is what we were told he said. He never wrote a book.
Elijah never wrote a book. Right. Some of the book of Elijah in the Old Testament.
Hold on.
Some of the book of Elijah.
Elijah didn't write the book of Kings. And again, what I'm trying to say is,
who wrote the book of Kings?
All these things.
Who wrote the book of Kings? You don't know because it's not saying.
I want to say.
I believe it,
it's Isaiah. Hold on, I was going to say Isaiah because the same things is in Isaiah is in the book of Kings. But
Isaiah
what I'm getting at is this:
you sure about that? Like you know that, or you think?
I want to say I read a commentary about that because of the parallels and all a lot of things that when you read in Isaiah. A lot of things, for instance, the same verse that you read.
Okay, so that's a could be, maybe. That's a maybe. You don't know.
It could be. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Because
so you don't know.
To answer that question, hold on. I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't know. But just to make my point, what I read earlier, when I read that Hezekiah said that it will be peace and truth in my days. When Isaiah came to him and said that your sons are going to go to Babylon. That same matter of fact, that I want to say a whole piece of like chapters of Isaiah is found in the book of Kings. So in the oral Torah,
conclusively prove that
I know, but when I'm saying in the oral Torah, it tells you. I said I don't know off the top of my head. I don't know, but what I'm saying is,
you don't know. Period. It ain't on top of your head. It ain't something you can just go look up and say, "Oh, he did it." No, you don't know. Nobody.
No, because in the oral,
it's not something you know off the top of your head.
In the oral Torah, it attempts to explain who wrote all the books. It tells you that some people,
but not proved. They're giving you theories, dude.
Exactly.
So you don't know.
That's what I'm trying to.
So you don't know.
So
you
all right, fellas, I gotta go to the next
caller,
caller, y'all. I gotta go to the next caller. I gotta go to the next caller, guys.
Just say you don't know.
I got to go to the next caller.
Bro.
I gotta go to the next caller. I gotta go to the next caller, family. I gotta do it, y'all. I gotta go to the next caller.
You got to do it, y'all. You got to do it.
Yeah, man. I gotta do it, bro. Let's go to Skype caller. Skype caller, you're live. Go ahead.
Hello. Shalom.
Hey, what's going on?
Shalom.
Right,
I've been listening to much of the debates for some time. I've been listening to the substance of the dialogue and the rhetoric. But I have quite a few questions. And one of them is this, because I hear oftentimes people speaking with much conviction. My question to ask is how many really realize that no imperfect testimony is a manifestation of genuine faith in the Most High? In other words, what I'm really saying is this: no testimony, no partialized testimony or polluted testimony that would act as an obstacle against fruition in the mentality or the conscience that the Spirit would give. None such partial or imperfect testimony is a manifestation of the Holy Spirit. So my question to ask is this: how much are those who are speaking here absolutely sure that nothing they speak is an obstacle, fundamentally flawed and an obstacle against the full awakening of a human soul?
Wait, Dayvaughn, you take that one.
Well, I mean, we all have to say, honestly, none of us were there for any of these events, unless somebody could tell me they over, thousands of years old, from Genesis up until current day. So this is all based on what we have accepted in our life to practice and to teach and to live by. And this is where I want to say one of the roots of so many denominations, because people with a belief system, you can take and choose what you want to practice. You know what I'm saying? You can take, well, I like this part of law, I don't like that part of law. I like this teaching, I don't like that teaching. I disagree with this, I want to do this, and it says I can't do that. I want to eat what I want to eat, but at the same time, I want to be a holy person. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we all taking this by what we've been told and what we see in the world now. Dealing with prophecy, we see prophecies happening, so we know somebody has some type of information that has passed down through time. Now, I know there's other cultures and civilizations that also have prophets that say the same thing. Native Americans can tell you stuff that's happening in America today is because some white buffalo was born according to their prophecies and stuff like that. So I'm familiar with this. So to be honest, we all are taking this in by a matter of faith and trying to practice and apply it in our life. And that's the simple answer.
Question. Where then does genuine faith come from? Because understand something. The multitude of contradictions, of variant opinions and estimations of man. Let's just say no one after the Holy Spirit sanctions any of those. When the scripture says he will not judge after what his eyes see, nor what his ears hear, we're talking about after the Spirit shall he judge. It is talking about after an exceeding sense of conscience. What it's really talking about, to be honest with you, is something that most of us don't know how to harness and don't even realize there's a need to harness. The Spirit speaks of bringing all things to remembrance. That is a re-experiential, let's just say, aspect of what the Spirit, or the real gift of the Spirit offers. Because, quite frankly, the soul that has really truly been touched by this and has no obstacles in his soul against that awakening that is necessary for the unity of the faith that would genuinely be the restoration of our people. I'm not talking about self-aggrandizement. That soul is actually allowed so that we all might be on the same page when all our people come together, is allowed to re-experience what it was that the ancient prophets and all the apostles and even Messiah himself saw, felt, and heard according to let's just say, what was the orientation or the effectual influences of society at the time. They understood that quite well, and understood it well enough to understand the implications of what would occur over the course of history as a result of, let's just say, those continual depravities or defamations against divine character that have stacked one upon another, lie upon lie, until finally we have come to this point. Well, many of us who say we are Israel are so unconcerned for the unity of the faith that we betray the possibility of even being, let's just say, per se, trusted enough to be counted an apostle or a prophet that hears beyond the ordinary. Because anyone who would take those words that we read presumptuously to speak what he has not heard elucidated from above has already condemned himself as untrustworthy. Think about it. This is not a word to be played with after ordinary estimations. Psalms 92, 5 through 6. Talks about the words of the Most High are very deep, and the brutish man will not comprehend it. What I'm saying to you is that I see a lot of surface level understanding that oftentimes is sufficient to be, let's just say, acceptable or even fatally flatter the masses. But let me tell you something. All that walking into institutions, seeking to have your own ideals verified without asking the Creator what is necessary so as not to be an obstacle is an obstacle.
All right. Okay. All right, let's anybody want to respond real quick? We got to get some more of these callers though. Josh, want to respond to anything?
I'm just gonna meditate on what he said. I'll let Dayvaughn respond if he wants to.
Oh, I was gonna say I respect his opinion because he made a lot of valid points. A lot of people, there's many teachers out here that just are teaching. They opened up the book, read it a few times, and got on YouTube and started teaching classes. Don't know no history, don't know no understanding. So many YouTube scholars, you know what I'm saying? And just, people just go to the library. So a lot of people like attention. So I, you know what I'm saying? I have nothing but respect for the position you just put out there because I have to agree that, you got to know what you're talking about. There is a lot of surface understanding because nobody has all the answers. I know I myself, I don't have all the answers. Many things appear to be something and they're not. You know what I mean? We have to grow. You know what I mean? What I know today, I didn't know 5 years ago. You know what I mean? I'm sure I'm going to learn something else tomorrow. So I think anybody who presents themselves as a know-it-all already showed that they don't know it all. So, yeah, I got nothing but respect for the position.
All right, fam, we're going to go to the callers. We winding down. We're in the last 45 minutes of the show or less. Let's go to 312. You're live.
Shalom, family. Can I be heard?
Yes, you're live. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Shalom.
Yeah, this is Elder Uriah. So shout out to Brother Josh and to you, Dayvaughn Mays. I really enjoyed the conversation and exchange. What's going on, family? It's good to hear from both you brothers. I just wanted to just point out a couple of things. I just wanted to ask, you brought up Isaiah 53:12 a little while back in regards to the dividing of the spoils. If you guys look at Mark 15:27, for me, that's a fulfillment of Isaiah 53:12.
15:27?
Yeah, 15:27. If you actually look into the spoils, right, what it's talking about, because if you read also in Mark 3:27, where it talks about no man enter to a strong man's house and spoil his goods, we see it's also talking about.
You said 3:15 or 5? What did you say, Mark? What? Sorry.
I said 15.
Mark 15:27.
Yeah, 15:27. Mark
okay.
15:27. And then also Mark 3:27. And then you see something very interesting when it talks about dividing of spoils, right? You see in Luke 19:17 through 19, where it says, and he said unto him, well, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a very little, have thou authority over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, Lord, thy pound have gained 5 pounds. And he said likewise to him, be thou also over 5 cities. And so when you start studying and actually understanding what the spoil actually is, you see these things actually being spoke about, and you see actually the Mashiach actually dealing with the disciples. He's actually teaching this. He's talking about the spiritual spoils that's being divided. So that's one thing. I just didn't want to dwell with things too long. But then also you talk about King David's throne, his earthly throne. When we talk about King David's earthly throne, can we agree that that's a position of authority?
I think so.
It is a position of authority.
It's a position of authority. And so that leads me to another verse, Matthew 28:18, right? And it says, then Yeshua came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. So to me, he's making the declaration that he's not only been given authority in heaven, but he's also been given authority in the earth, which to me would include, as we just agreed, that the throne of David on earth is a position of authority. So he said he's also been given all authority, which would include the throne of David. And so I just wanted to get you guys' feedback on that, and that would be it. Shout out to you, Sal. Great show tonight.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it, bro. All right. Anybody want to go ahead? You good? Answer the question.
Okay. I'll deal with the spoils since he went there. When I went to Zechariah, the verse I'm referring to is talking about an end time prophecy. Because when you read the whole narrative, there's a war. All the nations attack Jerusalem, and at the end of that war, everybody, they got to clean up. Everybody goes to Israel. They worship the Most High. It's kind of like an end-time prophecy. And those spoils is from the nations. Because if you go to Isaiah, it's talking about the same type of situation. In Isaiah 61, it says, verse 6, but you shall be named the priests of the Lord. Men shall call you the ministers of God. You shall eat the riches of the Gentiles. In their glory shall you boast yourselves. So we know it talks about
help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation through PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.